I'm deleting my question.
What's your question?
It was supposed to be a who's the hottie now?
Why are you deleting it?
Well, because your question's like about how the Beagle changed the world. My question is like,
No, you're
stuff 10 years ago.
No, Fred, your question remains. Quick, revert to the previous saved state.
So again, I had to get this new computer because my other one's stopped.
Oh! I didn't even notice.
It's not mine. It's just was in the lab. Because it stopped working after someone spilled water all over it.
Oh, no, did it really?
The batteries basically packed it in.
Hello and welcome to Fangin Around. This is episode 27, recording this on the 29th of October 2012. I'm James.
Lots of 20s.
2020. I'm James. I'm joined by
Campbell.
Fred.
And we have a special guest co-host all the way from New Zealand, Brendan. How you doing, Brendan?
Good. How you going?
Do you want to introduce yourself, full name? Are you like, I am Brendan?
Because Fred Baines never likes... Oh, shit, sorry.
Sorry, Campbell White somewhere in Inglewood.
My full name is Brendan D. It doesn't stand for anything. It's just D-E-E.
Do you know... Are you related to Donna? Oh, no, it's not. Sorry, I was going to ask if you're related to this person we know called Donna D.
But that's a pseudonym.
That's a pseudonym. Her name's very long.
Oh,
so she cuts it to double D-double-E.
Double D.
No, it's like Sandra D in Greece.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I used to have a kung fu instructor who used to call me Brandon Lee.
Did that make you feel really good?
I think it set up high expectations.
But you pronounce your name Brendan, right?
Brendan.
Yeah, cool.
What's the other pronunciation?
Well, you just said Brandon Lee, and I was like, we meant to say Brandon.
Yeah.
Now, Brendan's come from New Zealand. You come over you're from Perth?
Yes. I lived in Perth. I moved over to New Zealand about 2 years ago now.
Yep. And you come back for your birthday?
Yeah. Just
So
come
should we
back.
say happy birthday?
Yeah, it was
Happy
yesterday.
birthday, Brendan.
Hey, happy birthday.
So yeah, I come over every once in a while because all my family is here, and I've got a lot of friends over here, so I try and come back as often as I can afford.
Do you all looking out for discount flights? Do they have discount flights between Perth and New Zealand?
They do, but not to... Wellington is such a small little town. It's only like 300,000 people, and the airport's not so big, so you don't get flights that go all the way to Perth. So
yeah.
It's
I hear Auckland's trying to steal Perth's most remote city tagline because they reckon Wellington and Christchurch don't count as other cities. So
they're pretty much right. But it's still not as isolated as Perth is.
I guess on the east and the west there's just ocean, though, and the north.
Auckland's still closer to Sydney than Perth is.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's weird.
Yeah.
We're closer to Singapore
than Sydney.
Mm.
Okay. So why did you move to New Zealand, Brendan?
Basically, I was trying to find work in the film industry, and
Brendan's a filmmaker, we should say.
Yeah, of some description.
Yeah.
And in Perth, there is some people, give a hard time to the Perth film industry, but there is quite a decent, healthy film industry in Perth. It just seemed to me at the time like a lot of the work that was going was in kind of the field of documentaries or like TV productions, and I really wanted to get into really kind of like genre films, like really Hollywood type, just real commercial kind of stuff. And so it seemed like a lot of the opportunities required you either to move to the eastern states or to LA or over to New Zealand, where there's some things going on. And I couldn't really... It's not that easy to get a green card and go to the US. And a lot of people going over the eastern states, so I thought I'd try, check out New Zealand, because it didn't seem like many people going over there. And yeah, things worked out pretty well, so I ended up staying. It was just a short visit at first, and then been there for 2 years now.
So what's happening in Wellington with only 300,000 people that's not happening in Perth?
Well, they basically owe a lot to Peter Jackson. If he wasn't there, there'd be nothing. It would really be nothing, and most of the film industry in New Zealand is all actually based in Auckland. And Auckland's kind of like Perth, I suppose, scale-wise, the amount of work that's there. But yeah, it's just because of the work that Peter Jackson brings in with his films and things that shoot there because of where to digital and where to workshop and this whole little filmmaking empire that they've established there.
So he's kind of like a one-man... he's like the founding father of contemporary New Zealand film industry, I guess, in terms of jobs that are available. And
Yeah, he's kind of like George Lucas in a way that all the money he's made, he's invested back into building this little empire. I mean, for Lucas having ILM, Jackson's got Weta Digital. For Lucas having Skywalker Sound and the Skywalker Ranch, Jackson has like Park Road Post.
Okay.
And that's why they're getting other films going on over there. Hopefully a couple more Avatar films.
Were they filmed in New Zealand? Or
partially.
Digitally?
The forests there are amazing.
The first Avatar was about half and half. They shot all the motion capture stuff in LA, and then all the actual live action stuff with the actors was done in Wellington. That's why you notice a lot of those.
Sounds like it should be the opposite. It's like get the actors to do it in LA and
it was mainly because a lot of the sets and everything were being made by Weta Workshop. Okay. They were making a lot of the physical props, so that's why they chose to do it down there in the studios. And also, it's probably cheaper to hire extras in New Zealand.
Yeah,
that's true. So do you work within Weta, or are you working...
No, I do a lot of odd jobs around the place. So a lot of mainly freelance work.
Yeah.
A lot of my work is kind of in the post-production side of things. Do a lot of just like VFX work and things like that. But I was able to pick up a bit of on-set work over the last year, just because it's such a small internet community. Everyone knows everyone else, so it is easy enough to kind of jump between professions if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and I guess there must be a flow-on effect with Weta Studios and the like being there. Like, it must have a positive flow-on effect outside of their studio. Is that right? Outside of their kind of closed-net system?
Well,
I mean, the fact that it's kind of drawing all these productions into Wellington.
Well, it certainly seems like there's a bigger portion of the local population who pursue careers in the film industry, knowing that it is there, and so they do have a number of film schools that are quite successful, and they have seems to be a lot more film students than what you would expect in such a small town. And that kind of helps me pick up a lot of work, because you've got I do a lot of work on short films and stuff that whenever they need post-production, usually I can do a lot of stuff freelance, which is a cheaper alternative than the really big post houses that are around the place, which charge them a lot of money, so they sometimes will come to me.
So what sort of post-production work are you talking about?
I do everything from kind of digital intermediates to color grading, just visual effects, cleaning things up, fixing mistakes, doing titles and credits. I even make DCPs. I can actually make masters that can be shown in a cinema on a digital projector, and that stuff I can do for a fraction of the cost of what a big post-production company would charge usually.
Cool.
Now, I think I saw you on Facebook say that you had the landmark year, which every artist wants, is that you actually made more money from filmmaking than other kind of work.
Yeah,
So
I'm not gasping ironically or sarcastically. It's like, that's great.
No, I was.
We should say Campbell. We have the podcast originally was 2 artists versus 2 scientists. Our other PhD scientist is off in Scotland at the moment. So Campbell's the artist, Fred's the doctor. This is Dr. Fred here. He's a doctor of physics. So Campbell, obviously, me and Campbell are very excited to hear someone's making money.
Someone's making money out of their arts practice. I approve.
Yeah, well, I think when I looked at my time during the year, I probably had about 3 months of full-time film work, but still, even for those 3 months, you're talking like at least like 60, 70-hour weeks, like sometimes 100-hour weeks. So it is a lot of work in that time. But then the other 9 months of the year, I was having to just do whatever work I could find, and I think it's more testament to just how low paid I was for those other 9 months. Because it didn't seem like I had much money left at the end of the year, but I was pretty surprised at tax time. There's just it was about even, I think, over that. So,
now you got, now you were saying you also, like, in those other 9 months, do you, like, is it hard if you want to make your own film? Like, is it easy to find other people to help you out? Like,
I find that I've made a lot less of my own stuff since I've been in New Zealand, and I don't think that is really due to there's certainly no shortage of people that I could ask to help out and make films, but I just found that when I moved over there, I'd been in Perth for 16 years, and it was so easy whenever I wanted to make a film. All those little logistical things, like your locations and where to get gear, transport, everything, is it just comes so quickly to you. It's all second nature. You know exactly how to get everything you need.
Yeah.
And then even after being in Wellington for 2 years, I wouldn't have the first clue of where to. If I came up with a location for a film, I just don't know where I'd go. I don't know how to get things cheaply enough, and even it seems like in somewhere like Perth, if you go to people and say I'm making a film, and there's a kind of novelty to it, and people are willing to help you out for nothing, just because it's something interesting that they don't usually encounter. When you're in a real filmmaking town like Wellington, and you go to ask for something because you're making a film, people tend to get requests all the time, and it becomes more of a chore to them, and they're not as willing to just kind of jump on board and help you out just because of the novelty of working a film.
Yeah. They're like sick of, oh god, more filmmakers.
Yeah, they're always getting filmmakers asking for stuff for free. Yeah.
You need to like go on the road and film it in Christchurch or something and go, hey, can we film in your rubble? Sorry, bad joke.
There was actually there was a guy.
We also bill ourselves as the most offensive podcast.
You bill us as the most offensive podcast.
There is this guy who travels around. He's a filmmaker and photographer, and he was in Christchurch. I think he was actually there when the big earthquake was happening, and his first reaction was he jumped out the next day, went down into the red zone where everything was rubble, with his little DSLR, and started shooting plates for like a post-apocalyptic film.
Yeah. I remember that, like, we've had one earthquake like ever in WA and up in Meckering, and like they kept one house that had been destroyed in it, and you could go there and it was like, wow, this destroyed house destroyed an earthquake, but because it was like in 1960, so it was all overgrown, and but yeah. I always like, in those situations, do you run out and try and get some plate shots or something like that?
I think it's just trading off, really. Like in New Zealand, you're in constant fear of earthquakes. In Perth, you're in constant fear of bushfires.
Yeah. I think I remember one year I wanted to do this film I never got funding for, but I wanted to film some of the scenes on Australia down on the Perth foreshore. So we like grabbed my camera, and Fred got the microphone. We tried to record this scene, didn't really work. But and like even if I got that film funded, it wouldn't have been made for like 9 months later. But it was fun trying to just go down there, try and get some footage in this chaos that was.
Well, that happens every year though. That's not quite like an earthquake. That levels a city. That's
but
you're
never guaranteed to get good weather on the day, and for whatever happens, it's like once you get the money and you can't get it on that day, you're screwed kind of thing.
No, but I'm just saying, the opportunity comes around.
Yeah. You just feel like you got to shoot something. I don't know.
Yeah.
There was a film done for Trotfest a few years ago that I saw, and they'd actually filmed it during I think it was Australia Day celebrations, and so it was all done at night, and it was about some child that gets separated from their parents during all the celebrations and was lost and wandering around, but it was all quite. It's very interesting the way it was all shot on the night and through all this chaos and everything.
Yeah. Anyway, so we traditionally start off the show. We'll now introduce Brendan. Talking about what we've been consuming. Campbell, what have you been checking out?
I was in Melbourne last week for the Jump Mentorship, which is an arts grant program where they team up an emerging artist with an established artist. And anyway, I was over there doing things like that.
Which one were you?
I was the emerging.
Okay.
Emerging like a baby. But sorry, I'm looking down at my show notes.
You could tutor an artist. That wasn't a totally ridiculous question.
Oh, thanks.
You're more
Fred.
established than some other artists. It's like
Well, that's true.
some 17-year-old or something.
And I'm less established than others.
Yeah,
So I guess I could kind of sit on either side. But for this one, I sat on the side that received the money.
Yep.
I like being on that side. So I had like kind of evenings to myself, which I usually don't, and watch some television. So I saw quite a few things.
Yep.
So I watched Super Factories. Have you guys seen that?
This is Channel 1.
I don't know what.
Yeah,
channel
I
it
think
was
I
on.
know. I haven't seen it, but I think I know generically the type
Otherwise,
of show.
it's some countries it's mega factories.
You didn't see the Lego Factory episode, did
I
you?
didn't.
Oh, because that's the only episode I've ever seen, because they always play it in flight, and
Oh.
it's amazing. It's a really well made documentary in its own right. But I find it really funny because every so often when I'm on a plane, I always look around and see what everyone else is watching, and every flight I see someone watching the Lego
Someone's
Mega
watching.
Factories episode.
Yeah. Oh, well, I only just found out about that, so I because I went and checked what other Mega Factory episodes or Super Factories episodes there was. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I saw a couple episodes of that. It was all right.
What factories did you get to see?
The Corvette,
All right.
which is like a car I'm
Well, actually,
totally
I have
not
seen one
interested in.
episode. I saw the one where they make the Phantom, the Rolls-Royce Phantom.
Well, that's the thing, and I looked up what other cars, and there's like the Phantom, there's like Aston Martins, there's Lamborghinis, there's Ferraris, and I watched the Corvette one, which is like...
I think I might have seen
Kinda
one of those, but
crummy.
it wasn't even Mega Factories. It was just how they make it. And I think it was about a screwdriver or something.
Well, they've done
Something really
they've
just
done a Mega
inane.
Factories on Swiss Army knife, like you
Oh,
said,
pretty
Lego
cool.
blocks, Jack Daniels, Coca-Cola. So, and I saw 2 episodes, and I saw one about big Mercedes-Benz, their new like super hauler road train thing, which was quite interesting. But with the Corvette one, the narrator kept saying they've added less weight by using this component.
Yep.
And it was just like nails on a chalkboard to me. So they've by using this aluminum frame, they've added less weight. And you're just going, no, does that make sense? Add less weight?
You could write out as a mathematical equation, like plus negative weight.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess you couldn't you?
But you're
Sounded
adding
so
you're
wrong.
adding the weight of the chassis, but less of it because it's made of aluminium.
It sounded so wrong. I guess you're right. I guess I'm wrong. Adding less weight. I watched Black Mirror, an episode of that. Sort of like a Twilight Zone, English Twilight Zone. They only made
Never
3
heard of it.
episodes. It's pretty cool. The guy, it's all about set in this alternative future / past where everyone's got like a, I guess it's like an advanced Google Glass, was it? Except it's just built into your eyes, and you can rewind your memories and play them back and zoom in and enhance image 1000% and that sort of thing. So, but it's pretty cool. And what happens, and so everyone's sitting around kind of rewatching memories and doing things like that.
So it's sort of a comment on people trying to relive their past and not enjoying the present.
Yes, sort of, I guess, yeah. And also, how we're kind of hyper-recording things. And,
Everything.
What if we extend that, like, to its natural conclusion of you can record everything you've ever seen in perfect detail.
Well, have you seen Catherine Bigelow's film with Ralph?
What, Juice Bigelow?
Fiennes?
It's
No?
the sequel.
Is that Bigelow?
Oh.
I don't know how to pronounce the name.
Catherine Bigelow.
James Cameron's ex-wife.
Is that a real name?
Yeah, I think so.
Wouldn't that
I
make
thought it was
And,
made up.
what, Bigelow?
Juice
Yeah.
Bigelow, male gigolo.
I thought
Yeah.
Rob just made it up.
From the depths
To
of
rhyme
his
it
creative
with-
So
talent.
is his name Juice Bigelow, do you think? Is that how the title of...
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it
Juice
is,
Bigelow,
yeah.
male
Yeah.
gigolo.
Right.
I just thought they made up Bigelow to run.
But is that the name of the
Gigolo.
character, though? Do you
Yeah,
think?
that's the name of the title.
Or is that like
No, that's the name of the
two
character.
times the Bigelow? I don't know. It's the name of the
Yes,
character.
yes.
You've seen it, okay.
But there are 6 or 7 billion people in the world now, so
Yeah.
I'm sure any surname you'll find someone who has it.
Someone.
Anyway, this Ralph, I think it's
Ralph
Strange
Bigelow.
something.
Strange.
It's about him and people create snuff films by murdering someone and then stealing their
Strange
recording.
Days.
Strange Days, yeah. And then you can relive that death or something like that,
Is that
or
just a snuff film?
or you can go to
No, but it's like a memory implant.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
They get some guy to like go and have like 3 prostitutes, do everything with him, and then
And then they
record
sell
his-
that memory,
Sell that
right?
memory, yeah.
There's like a Kevin Bacon film or something where that happened. It was just like really like psychedelic. I watched a documentary or a TV series show called Darren Brown, The Experiments. Do you know Darren Brown? He's like this English, I guess he's like a confidence trickster. So he does all sorts of performative work where he pretends to be like a telepath or something, and he does all these things, and everyone's like, "Whoa, you're a telepath!" And he's like, "No, actually, it's just this is the tricks that telepaths use."
I think
to
I saw
change."
an ad for that, but I didn't actually watch
So who
it.
does that?
It's a guy called Darren Brown.
Because you know that Lawrence Long who was in the
Yeah.
IronNet thing, he did a show like that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was really good. I liked
Yeah.
it.
That was cool. Well, he does that sort of thing, but he knows all the tricks, so he'll like confuse people into thinking he's magic or something, and then he's like, nah, you know. I can't talk to the dead. It's just this, it's these things. Anyway, this is from a series called The Experiments, and the episode I saw, right, he's got this. It's in England, and they've got this manor rigged up with all these little hidden cameras, and they invite this person along to come and take part in this like weekender conference, and so there's one person who's not an actor, who's a real just person, and then the rest of the people are actors, and they're all playing these roles. And over the weekend, they sort of like fuck with this guy's mind, right? This is like a real show with real people. And they get him all like worked up and feeling like he's losing his memory and things. So someone will walk out with one coloured shirt and walk back in with another thing, or people will be like, "Oh, remember you signed up for this thing?" And he's like,
So it's
"No."
kind of subtle. Kind
Yeah,
of
it's all really subtle stuff. And he starts like getting really confused and being like, "Oh, okay, I just can't remember anything this weekend." Anyway, over the 2 days, they freak him out. But it's just really slow and gentle, right? And then they trick him into thinking he's stolen this pearl necklace. And he's looking for it, and then he's like found it in his bag, and then someone else is like, "Oh yeah, remember you were playing with it this time?" And they had him playing with it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I must have taken it." Anyway, he freaks out, and he goes and confesses, and they're like, "Oh, don't worry." Like the maitre d'hotelive's like, "Oh, don't worry. Look, I'm just glad we've got it back. I'll just say that we found it," and all this stuff. And then they set up this rivalry with this jerk guy, right? Who like cheats when they're playing croquet, and kind of they're going, "Oh, he said you were a real wanker. He's been bad mouthing you all night." And the real guys are like, "Oh, is he really? I don't know." Anyway, they set all this up, and then on the last night, it's supposed to be a celebration. So he gets really pissed, right, and passes out. And then in his bedroom, they like play this message through the TV to like hypnotize him, like, "Oh, you're so sleepy, you're not going to wake up, just keep sleeping." And then everyone comes in and carries him out into the lawn and places him out in the lawn on a blanket. Right, and he wakes up at 5 a.m. He's out in the field, and he's like, "What the fuck?" And he goes in and goes back to bed. And then it's the last day of the conference, and then they're like, "Oh, the police arrive," and they're like, "Oh, we found a dead body." And it's the guy that he was having this fake rivalry with. And they're like, "So what happened last night?" They're interviewing everyone, and the police are like, "What happened last night? Do you remember what happened?" And he's like, "No." And they're like, "Well, did you sleep in your room last night?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah, but I woke up in the middle of a field. I don't know what happened." And they kind of set it up where, they drank champagne another night, and they'd made up that all this stuff had happened that hadn't. And everyone was like, "Oh, when you drink champagne, you must black out. Duh, duh, duh." And so he had it in his mind. He was like, "Oh, I was drinking champagne. I always black out when I drink champagne." And he like freaked out so badly that he ran down to the local police station and confessed that like he killed this guy. He like made a full confession, and then he confessed to Darren Brown, the host, who he hadn't met yet. And then Darren Brown's like, "All right, but what about this?" And then he rips out like the interrogation room wall, which is made of paper, and then everyone's like standing behind it, like going, "Whoa!" He's like, "It was just a trick." I was like,
So what's the
that would fuck with your head.
What'd the guy do?
He was like so happy. He was like, "Woohoo!"
You get pissed
They
off.
need to
with
do
that,
a
bro.
revisit like a few years later and see.
But
if it's
wouldn't
still
that just
happening.
totally fuck with your whole concept
Because
of
you could flip out.
reality?
If you were the type of person that you thought you were being accused of murder, you just had to go on the road or like fight your way out of it or something. It could go horribly, horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would kind of get like a is it Peter and the Wolf? The like Boy Who Cried Wolf
Boy
type
Who
thing
Cried
going on.
Wolf. Yeah.
You know, you'd never
Trust
anything else that happened, like any weird
Ever.
stuff that happened in your life. You would
Just
always
like,
be looking for the cameras.
Yeah. Like car crash up ahead, you'd be like, oh, this looks dodgy, there's probably hidden camera, or anything. So it's called Darren Brown, The Experiment. He's done a whole bunch of TV series. This is the only episode I've ever seen. And they did a preview for the second episode where he set this sculpture in this small English town. And he started telling everyone it was good luck to rub its head. And then he started rigging all these events. And so the whole town was like, oh, yeah, I got pregnant after rubbing that like dog statue's head and all this crazy shit.
And then what?
I don't know. But
a
it just
mystery.
escalates. That really freaked me out, that show. Because I was like, yeah, what if the guy had like a total mental breakdown? Or forever you'd just be wondering, is this like a trick?
Yeah.
It sounds... I don't know how they got away with it.
Maybe they give him some psychological counselling afterwards, like a
But wouldn't you be
debriefing.
But wouldn't you be suspicious the whole time of that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good point.
I remember
So-
I was working on this film set and there was this other guy on it, and he was trying to. It was his sort of his life's goal to get. His name was Lee, and his life's goal was to get something named Lee's Law, like Murphy's Law or something like that. And he was trying to give a name to, that feeling like when you buy a car or maybe an iPod and suddenly you see them all around. You seem to notice those things more, or you've seen something, it comes to attention. Once it's in your brain, it comes to attention more, and suddenly you're like, why haven't I ever noticed that?
That's got a law, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's called something boring, like observation
Right. Well,
bias
this
or
is 10
something.
years ago, right? And they're only, and so he was trying to spread this. It obviously didn't work because I found it the other day on Reddit. They talked about it, and like 2007, someone, the world psychological body decided to give it this official name, and it's not, so it failed his life goal.
That's that.
It kind of makes me think of, there was an episode of American Dad, and his wife's like life goal was to make a popular catchphrase.
Oh right.
And so she was just trying to like come up with all these catchphrases and then just kept using them and trying to hoping that
they
catch on. Yeah.
And there was a Seinfeld episode where that with eating a chocolate bar with knife and fork, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Snickers.
Snickers bar, yeah. Trying to get that to catch on.
You tried scissors to get people to eat food with scissors.
That came up in Melbourne when I was there.
Years ago.
Yeah.
So you
still
reckon
think
it's still there from when you lived there?
I had that once. I went to a Korean barbecue restaurant where they give you the hot plate in front of you, and it was in Sydney, and ordered like this seafood soup, and the thing was enormous, and all they gave you was a pair of chopsticks and a pair of scissors.
It's perfect.
And because this soup,
elegant.
there was like a whole squid in the soup, this enormous squid. So the only way to eat it was you'd have to get the chopsticks, pick the squid up, and chop its tentacles off.
Wow. But that's so refined, I think. I think scissors are such an elegant tool to have at the dinner table. A knife is so crude, the sawing motion. Snip.
I was wondering, maybe this is a question of the week, but what's your favourite kind of spoon?
My favourite type of spoon?
Yeah. Do you like teaspoons, soup spoons, dessert spoons?
I like teaspoons.
Table
Yeah, I was
spoons?
going to say teaspoon.
Teaspoons.
Teaspoons.
It's got the most character.
Yeah.
And I like to eat my dessert
And
with
functional?
teaspoons.
Like, do you use teaspoons for things other than tea?
Well, ice cream,
Yeah.
dessert, any dessert, because it forces me to slow down a bit. I'm
getting really into, and I probably got this from my brother, but I'm getting really into soup spoons.
yeah.
To scooping stuff up,
Yeah,
They're-
that's what usually what they're good
yeah.
for. Yeah.
Why do you prefer them over dessert spoons?
I don't know. I guess it's like, do you prefer a shovel or a spade? And I'm going for the shovel right now. Yeah,
Which is the difference? I can't remember. Spades are flat.
a shovel you're moving stuff one place to the other. I think spade you're digging
Yeah.
holes.
But so that's functional, right?
Yeah,
But the spoon's just the same.
yeah. It's just a random question. Okay. Anything else?
Well, on our
let me just
favourite
check my
spoons,
shirt.
on it.
Oh, look, I went to all the galleries and things and had a great time. And oh no, this isn't something I've been watching. No, No, that's enough. I talked enough. Next person.
Brendan, what have you been checking out?
Recently, I've been trying to catch up on a lot of TV shows. Like, I never actually get to watch TV shows when they're on TV. I have to kind of like sit down and watch a series in a day or something. And
Do you watch it on like a little bit fast forward? Because some people do.
if the show is that boring, I'll just
okay.
stop it and move on to something else.
Okay.
What do you want? The chipmunk voices? And
Well, Fred had a housemate that used to watch things at like 1.5 speed or something.
Just fast enough so that, it was chipmunk voices and not just like chopping it. But he watched like 8 series of Stargate in a week or something ridiculous like that, just on double, like 1.5 speed in his room.
no, but there are a few films that were so bad. I watched the whole thing with on-screen progress bar. So you could see how much longer you had to keep watching it for.
I watched a few things, movies, and fast forward. I can't remember what it was though. If any of our listeners listen to this podcast in double speed or something, let us know. Mailbag@fangin.com.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what we sound like. I mean, I could check it out myself. But.
Well, technically, back in the VHS days, everything that you watched was in fast forward. To convert all the Hollywood films from 24 frames to 25 for the Australian TV, they'd all be sped up 4%. And so a few people who were quite perceptible to it noticed when they changed over to DVD. A friend of mine saw Pulp Fiction for like the first time at actual 24 frames a second, and suddenly he noticed like all the voices sounded deeper.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because I think American they actually try and convert it properly to 29.7.
They use the 3-2 pull down method,
But in Australia and Europe, they're just like, nah, screw it, they just speed it up. Basically. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
So yeah,
That's
I've
pretty
been.
crazy.
I finally got around to watching Game of Thrones because everyone's been harping on about it for years, the last year or so, and I've wanted to watch it, just never had the time. And I don't really. I never kind of download things dubiously. I usually wait for them to come out on DVD or Blu-ray.
If they come out.
Yeah, eventually. So Game of Thrones took a long time to come out, especially in New Zealand. And so when it finally did, I've got the Blu-ray sitting there, and I only had time to watch the first 8 episodes. And I've got to kind of get through it because already stuff from season 3 is getting spoiled for me. So I have to catch up. And Walking Dead as well. I'm only up like halfway through season 2. I've got to find the time to catch up on those.
I've started watching Breaking Bad.
All right.
Hey, I went and bought the first series on DVD, but I haven't started watching
I
it
thought
yet.
you hated it.
I hated it because the version that I acquired of someone, let's not name names, was like, I don't know how old it is, like 8 years old or
Probably,
something.
yeah.
So I was like, I don't know what it is, 460 by something, on my screen it's like this little tiny thing, and you put it on the full screen, it's like a bunch of
For
squares.
other people, I have re-downloaded a better version.
Favoritism. So that's why I bought it from an actual store on DVD.
You're supporting the old media, Fred. It's dying.
But how do you play a DVD on your iPad,
Yeah,
Fred?
what are you supposed to do with it?
On your
I
MacBook
don't have
Air?
an iPod. I don't have a MacBook Air, so...
Yeah, exactly. These things are useless.
Yeah.
Oh,
What?
That's right, I bought it and I have no way of watching it. 'cause
You
I'm
could
that
rip it onto your
stupid.
iPad. Oh, but that's illegal. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. You're persecuting me for obeying the law now.
Fun? No, I'm just saying these people...
Even laws can be wrong, Fred.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So I started watching Breaking Bad. Yeah.
That's-
And every time it kicks up, I'm like, is this Firefly?
Don't spoil it for me.
The opening song, it's all like that sort of banjo-y Firefly action.
Is it?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
It's weird.
Oh, yeah,
It
is.
freaks
too.
me out.
Yeah. Well, anything that has the HBO... When I start a new HBO show, I always think, oh, crap, I'm watching that show I watched before, but because it has the same IP.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Breaking Bad's definitely on my list of things to get to. So is The Wire, and that's sitting there waiting to be watched as
It's all
well.
worth seeing.
It's all quite daunting, though. When you know there's like 5 seasons of this
no,
thing,
yeah,
and it's
no.
like 12 episodes a
Well,
season, each one's an hour,
I
and you're
found
like,
The Wire really daunting. But once they got into
The
it.
Wire's what, like 10 hours a season? So I figure if I just set aside a week.
Yeah. And you probably understand more of it as well if you watch it
if you watch it back to back.
I can't believe the people who watched it over 5 years, how they...
How do you keep all that in your
Actually,
head?
Scrubs, I never got into Scrubs for years. And then I'd never seen it. And one day someone lent it to me. And I just sat down and watched the first 2 seasons in one straight run.
They're like 20-minute episodes, are they?
They are, but there's quite a
Yeah,
few
yeah,
in
yeah.
a season. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was like a full day. Yeah.
Because I find them not very satisfying 20 episode shows anymore. Like once you've tasted the HBO.
For a comedy, I think it's okay. Cause
Yeah, this is true.
At least you know you don't have to wait very long if you want to get up and get something to eat. Or
Yeah.
There's regular
And
breaks.
it's always the just one more.
Yeah.
Just one more.
Yeah.
It's only 20 minutes, and then
Oh,
you end up watching 4 in a row. It's 80
Game of
minutes.
Thrones, I found, is the worst for that because I'll sit down and go like, I'm going to watch one episode,
No.
and they always end on such a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Like
With
just
shows
one
like
more.
that, it's got
Yeah.
to be at least 2, because then you get a cliffhanger and you get resolution.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if there's just cliffhanger, you watch one episode, it's just cliffhanger, and you're like,
But since they're still TV shows, there are still breaks throughout it where ads would be inserted, and I found it better just stop there because it's not much of a cliffhanger. It's easy to stop there than at the actual end of an episode.
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, Game of Thrones used to have good cliffhangers.
Well, what about movies?
I pretty much watch everything. Like the 9 months of the year when I'm not working on films, I work as a cinema projectionist, so I actually get to.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I pretty much see everything
What are you
that comes out.
projecting these days? Do
Well-
you actually get to project film?
Yes, I started as a projectionist about 5 years ago because that was like kind of the last bastion of celluloid. It was the last kind of place you still got to handle 35mm film and use a splicer and everything. And gradually digital's been coming in, but all the kind of cinema chains were cheap and they wouldn't make the transition until they were kind of forced to. But it's finally reached its way to New Zealand, and within the next couple of weeks the last 35mm projectors will all be disappearing. And
will you still be employed, or does it still
probably
require a projectionist?
not as much. I'm trying.
Yeah.
It's good because it's kind of motivating me to really get my real filmmaking work to try and get to a point where that can support me and pay all the bills.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll still have some work, and I don't want. I'm a bit hesitant to fully kind of turn my back on projection work because I do enjoy watching movies for free.
Yeah. Now, Campbell, you were in
Yeah.
Melbourne, I think. I don't know whether it was the same time, but P.T. Anderson was in Melbourne showing The Master in 70mm.
Yeah, we hung out a bit.
Did you know about this? Or
No, I didn't know about that.
if I had known, I would have told you and seen if you...
Stalk him a bit.
Yeah, or if they were still showing it in 70mm, you might have been able to see it, and that would.
I would have liked that,
Yeah.
but I didn't know about that at all. I did go to the Game On exhibition. I didn't mention
that good?
That was awesome. History of video games. So good. So it started with arcades.
Or is that at Acme?
Yeah.
They're just perpetually doing video game based
Yeah,
things.
I know. There was one... Last time I was in Melbourne, there was a
Because
game.
I was
on
there and
one.
it was all old arcade games. But
Yeah.
It's like the same thing, history of video
Yeah.
games. So you got to play
Actually-
Gallagher or whatever. Gallagher.
Yeah, I was just this evening. I was having dinner with someone who'd just been to the expo, and they were telling me about it. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
No,
good.
we got into this whole argument.
Did you get to play them, or are you just watching?
Oh, hell yeah, you get to play 'em.
All right.
Yeah.
What-
Sorry,
what was-
there was an argument?
Oh no, we got into that because they were quite older people, and they were saying they don't really like the level of violence in video games, and then that got into the whole. It's quite a sensitive subject in Australia. What with the banning of R-rated games, has that been
The
lifted
unrating
now?
of-
or-
They're
R-rated
introducing
games?
it now. The new controversy is that they're going to censor a whole bunch of stuff that they used to have as MA and just make them Rs now, which is just a contradiction, saying that they had this system where, we're not going to have Rs because we don't want them violence, but then you actually let these things through and now you want to upgrade them.
It was really interesting with
It's weird.
when Alien vs Predator came out, because up to that point the Australian censors had basic policy of if a distributor wanted to bring an R-rated game to Australia, they would say no, we don't find this acceptable for the MA level, so you can either censor it or it won't be allowed for sale in Australia. And usually the distributors would just go back and censor it, and they'd always do a bit of a half-assed job and result in these glitchy games. And the publishers of Alien vs Predator, from what I understand, basically said, no, if you don't want this game for sale, we're just not going to sell it in Australia. And I'm sure they knew that people who wanted the game knew how to get it from overseas. So the censorship office just kind of backpedaled a bit and said, well, okay, we'll review it again. And at that point, just gave it an MA and allowed it for sale.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like really defeats the purpose of the entire system.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just... I'm not that fussed about old games getting upgraded. I mean, it's just like, it should be up... If you're a kid and you're under the care of a parent, it should be up to the parent to decide how they want to raise the kid.
Still buy their
Did you read the paper?
Yeah, that's fine. But it's a parent's choice. It's a parent's, until a kid can vote. He should be his parents should be responsible for.
A few years ago,
that's not necessarily a good thing. There's not always good parents out there, but
well, a few years ago when they were really the issue was getting a lot of public attention, they issued this paper where both sides were able to really express their arguments, and I really looked into it, and the arguments against having R-rated video games didn't make a whole lot of sense. And one of them was they basically said you can't always rely on the parents to know what's best for their kids. And one instance was they were saying in some rural communities the level of literacy with parents is quite low, so they won't be able to read the restricted warning on the game. And the counter to that was always, well, they know what an 18 and a 15 is, and even if they don't know numbers, they're also color coded. And if they don't,
maybe that says that as a government we should be doing things to make better parents.
Well, if they can't
increase literacy,
if
that as a basic level, yes.
If they can't read numbers and colors, they probably shouldn't be raising kids anyway. But at that point, you have to wonder, well, if they can't read the warning labels on the video games, then obviously they can't also read the warning labels on the movies and the music and the book.
Oh, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Oh, that's... Yeah.
But it was really interesting being over in New Zealand, where they don't have the restriction on R-rated video games, but they do kind of suffer a bit because Australia has it, because every time an R-rated game would receive a censored version for the Australian market, that's the same version that would be released in New Zealand. So they'd end up getting these often glitchy, modified versions of the games, even though the original version was perfectly legal over there.
Again,
that's weird.
All these things that are getting in the way of art and people making money from art.
Yeah.
You saw Argo the other day.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that any good?
Argo was very good.
Have you seen Ben Affleck's other films?
Yeah. I think he makes great films.
He's a better director than his actor. But then he's acting.
Well, I don't mind him as an actor, but I think he's like he's like Mel Gibson, like as a director. He makes some really just great straight-faced, like no nonsense kind of classical stuff in an age where there's too much. Everything's just kind of too polished and hollow. He just makes some like just nice, and same with like George Clooney as well. I think like these actors turned directors who just make some like nice, mature, old-fashioned movies. But as a year, like 2000, it's nice to see an occasional good film come out, because 2012 has been a pretty disappointing year of movies.
Did you end up seeing Killing Me Softly and Lawless?
Yes.
Well, don't spoil it because I don't really want to see them. But they're by two Australian directors, right?
Yeah.
Going to New Zealand, who we've kept as ourselves.
I didn't actually know that Andrew Dominic was born in New Zealand until I saw him interviewed on New Zealand TV.
I think Peter Weir's even born in
Peter Weir's in New Zealand, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he is. Actually.
Everyone is Russell Crowe and all the cool people are.
But
hardly anyone's actually born here.
Do you got all the people you meet in New Zealand are just like the coolest people in the world?
They're very laid back. And
Hey, no, that's our thing.
That's our thing, man. Or did we just steal that from New Zealand?
Probably.
Crisis.
and they're ridiculously like friendly. Like it's really
We're friendly.
Yeah, that's our thing.
And we're beachy and outdoorsy and mateship.
I can never
Unless you're a
really-
lebo, and then we'll get you. Sorry.
That's
I can never really work out
thanks, Alan Jones.
if New Zealand is Australia's Mexico or Australia's Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
Bali's probably our Mexico.
Bali, good old
Well,
Bali.
cheap and
yeah.
browner than us, and
Well,
Can
New
you get
Zealand
donkey shows?
yeah, it's all that,
sure you
all
can.
that stuff.
Mm.
I think New Zealand's our Canada.
Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah.
So they're two, at least Australian trained,
Directors.
nurtured directors gone to Hollywood. I'm a huge fan of Andrew Dominic. Like his previous two films are two of my favorites.
Would you
Chopper and Assassination of Jesse James with Carl Robert Ford, longest title in history. And I saw The Road and The Proposition one. Is that by
John Hillcoat.
John Hillcoat? Yeah,
Yeah.
they're pretty cool.
Yeah. Would you say that, in your opinion, Lawless, you can call it an Australian film?
I haven't seen it, so I don't know. I don't think it's funded by Australia, is it?
No, but I don't really think that should be a requirement.
No, but I mean,
Did our
they're going over there and trying to make movies.
Well,
Does it feel like
New Zealand claims Lord of the Rings as a New Zealand film. When you go to a video store in New Zealand and it's got the New Zealand films,
section?
Lord of the Rings is in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So is King Kong. And I reckon by that standard, like, okay, Lawless wasn't shot in Australia,
Yeah.
but you got the director is an Australian, the writer is an Australian, the DOP is an Australian. Actually, I don't know, but who DOP'd Lawless? I was thinking Greg
I don't
Fraser,
know,
but
but
he
Andrew
did kill
Dominic
himself.
had the Coen Brothers cinematographer, Carl Robert Ford.
Oh yeah. Richard.
I should know his name, but he was pretty cool.
Yes,
He's really good. He
Roger
does-
Deakins.
Roger Deakins,
Yes.
yeah.
No, I think it was Killing Me Softly had Greg Fraser, the Australian DOP.
Oh, cool.
I can't think of who did Lawless now, but half the cast were Australian in
Yeah.
Lawless as well, which I think is really cool. Like John Hillcoat, even though he's making movies over in the States, he's hiring as many Aussies as he can.
Yeah. So without giving spoilers, are they completely different to other stuff, or is it? Because I saw that Killing Me Softly is like only 95 minutes long or something, which is compared to Carl Robert Ford, which is like 3 hours.
Yeah, it's quite. Like Killing Me Softly was really
Is it more Chopper, or is it more
interesting. Well, not even. I think probably a
another
bit
thing
more like
altogether?
Chopper. Yeah, in the sense that it's not. I don't mean to sound in a bad way, but it is kind of like ponderous a little bit. It's very.
Yeah, well, that's
It's like, and then when I think back on Chopper, it's very similar. Like it was just these long dialogue scenes, and it was just a lot of character through dialogue. And it is quite funny, but bleakly funny in a way.
Yeah. What about you, Fred?
Consumption.
Yeah.
I went to the Quantum Photonic Hardware Conference at Rottnest
At Rottnest?
I heard that was.
Can you say that again?
downer.
It did have a massive downer. Quantum Photonic Hardware. It's a bit of a buzzword.
How did that come to have a conference on Rottnest Island of all places?
It was more of a workshop. So the idea is you just put everyone in this sort of isolated place that's really nice, so people want to go there.
And you can't get away.
Yeah. So if it was somewhere, boring, that nobody would turn up, just put it somewhere nice. Put everyone in like the same place, and just hopefully people talk and
Get some
talk
physics
about ideas.
happening.
Yeah, get some science going on.
Is it a
Yep.
girl thing, or is that for guys too?
There was one girl at the whole conference.
Wow. Did you invite her on the podcast? Sir?
No, she's
from Australia?
I don't know her.
Perth?
It was mostly people from Queensland and Perth.
Now, James was alluding to a bit of a problem.
Can you talk about that?
I think so. So this guy called Sean Barrett.
Should I be smiling, or
no,
is this okay?
it's actually really sad. This guy called Sean Barrett was due to come to the conference. He arrived in Perth, got in a taxi, was about 10 minutes away from the airport, got hit by some dickhead who stole a car, and him and the taxi driver were killed straight away.
Did you know him? Was he a guest speaker, or was he just part of the workshop thing?
He was going to talk, and my supervisor's friend knew him really well, and so he had to go and ID the body and stuff, and it was all pretty rough, and
I mean, if it's meant to be like an intimate thing, it would have been pretty heavy.
yeah. So instead of him giving his talk, it was like a wake almost.
Yeah.
So people would talk about him, and people would send in condolences and stuff. So it was like the worst start you could have to a conference. Someone just getting taken out.
Yeah.
But then once you move past that, it was pretty good. Quite interesting stuff. Even though I don't really understand most of it.
God.
So why were you there?
Why wouldn't I go?
Do you get paid to go?
Instead, I could go to Rotten Nest for 5 days, or I could work in the.
No, but like, oh, you just wanted to go to Rottnest. That's what you're saying. You
No,
didn't
no,
care
no,
about
no,
what was
no,
happening.
no,
Was this like that lake in Italy that you got to go to?
Yeah.
That was
Similar.
bullshit too.
Yeah. You learn things. You might meet people, see what other people are doing.
Were your other colleagues going?
Yeah, everybody was
Yeah,
going.
so it's a bit of a
It was everyone.
Just a bit of a booze cruise.
bit of the crew
really.
going.
booze
Yeah.
cruise.
Okay.
Yep. Every night.
Any antics? What do the physics get up to?
Crazy.
Kicking quackers?
Getting kicked out of the pub every night at midnight. Going to every pub at Rottnest. Both of them.
Wow.
Calling between them.
And controversy, no Red Rooter?
No Red Rooster.
Oh.
Why not?
Tragic. Yeah. Subway instead.
Ugh.
It's just not the same.
Satisfying.
Eat fresh!
Yeah.
That's
it fresh?
corporate. It's international. It shouldn't be allowed on Rottnest.
No, it shouldn't.
It should be local.
That's about it.
Finished Borderlands 2.
Yep. That was really good.
You finished Borderlands 2?
He hasn't
Yep.
finished Borderlands.
I haven't finished Borderlands 1, but I finished Borderlands 2. And so I'm cutting. I was telling
Apparently it has a
James,
story.
oh, they all have a story.
Well, apparently Borderlands 1's so kind of vague.
Yeah, but this one's basically like,
You don't pay attention to.
no, you shoot stuff. But I'm going to cut the Xbox. I was telling James before. I'm cutting it.
That's
Why?
Spending 8 hours a day on the weekend playing Xbox is the biggest waste of time you could imagine. So it's cut.
Yep.
Yeah, it's cut. Now you can have 2 Xboxes,
Now,
James.
for you, it's not a waste of time.
Hey.
You should take the Xbox and play just some of these short.
Take the Xbox, Cal. Just one little play.
No, just play some 4-hour games like Limbo and Portal 1. And I think
I
it
have
would be
been
good
meaning
for
to play
your
those
artistic development. You know?
Yeah. I got really excited when I went to the Game On exhibition, especially playing, because the exhibition sort of charts the earliest games, like the arcade games. And so it was all cabinets, and then it moved on to sort of early home console stuff, and then big creative names within it, like I can't even name any of them, but there you go. I'm kind of drawing a blank, but the guys who did like Double Fine Studios now, and is it Will Wright who did like the Sims series? A couple of other guys, and then it moved on to like rhythm games and then indie games, like all kind of Limbo and things, and but it was really cool. But I just was so drawn to like the early stuff, like the arcades, all the cabinets where the control systems are unique to every game. You know, there wasn't standardized joystick and 6 buttons or anything.
Wasn't it just button? Joystick and button?
Well, some of them were joystick and a button, and some of them had like a dial, and some of them had a track wheel, and some of them, they're all different.
Have you ever seen the film King of Kong?
Yeah. And I played Donkey Kong there. It was really hard.
Yeah,
It was really hard.
One of my friends.
It wasn't fun.
One of my friends is starting a business. He's got maybe 3 of those arcade games now. You know the ones that are like tables?
Yeah, I love those, yeah.
Joystick and button, and it's got like 1942 and Gallagher and
Uh-huh.
Pac-Man on it, and you put them in like some burger joint or bowling alley or whatever, and then you split the money with the owner.
Yeah.
Make a couple $100 a month.
Yeah. It's totally awesome. It made me want to buy or have made a cabinet, because you can have them made or buy them, and
Sure,
then just
you
program.
could,
you can download
some
like every game.
mobile phone computer now could
Yeah.
run. Gallagher
Well, people
and put
do
on.
that, yeah, and just have every arcade game that can run and operate with that sort of control system, and then you can have it, because there's just something about a cabinet that's just so amazing. I don't have room for one.
Do you know anything about the Turbo Graphics 16?
Oh,
Well, I think it's
I've heard
called
of it.
PC Engine. some
Mode
other place.
16 or something?
No, the TurboGrafx.
It was kind of like this
Is it
system.
like a handheld?
No, it was a console, but it was a 16. It was kind of like the Dreamcast. Like it came in just
Bit
after
too early.
NES and tried to be 16-bit before the Super NES. And
I think I mainly remember
Mega
it
Drive.
from comics, where they advertised it in comic books.
yeah. Anyway, this this guy, I don't know if you follow the Giant Bombcast, like it's a gaming podcast, but it's one of these guys who's decided he's going to collect these games, and he's been buying off the eBay, but they're being, he can get them off eBay, but their shipping prices are like astronomical, like for the places that sell him. So he's worked out that he can fly to, this is from California, fly to Japan for 48 hours, like, I don't know, either 1 or 2 nights in a hotel, go to every sort of, secondhand store in Japan with that sell secondhand games, buy enough games to justify the cost of the flight just by the saving of the money of the shipping costs, and possibly getting a slight discount because he's not bidding on them on eBay. So that sounds really nuts.
Sounds like a terrible
crazy.
idea.
But the cartridge collecting market's going through a huge bubble,
Yeah.
I guess.
Because all the people that played those games when they were young now have proper jobs and like houses, and they have this.
But they're collecting.
But you can get
but
the
it's all
ROMs.
They're getting all nostalgia.
You can get the ROMs, but it's not the same.
But yeah, it's not the same.
No,
And then
how's
he
it not
found
the
this. He was digging through because he's been covering games for. He's like 40, so he's been covering games since the early 90s, and he found this unwrapped version of this game he had bought, but because he got the demo version to review it, he didn't like the game enough to open up his own copy that he had ordered. And then he went and got it valued, and it's this one cartridge, and it's worth like $6,000 or something.
Yeah,
like
you
that.
should check out this one that's just gone for sale at a collector. It's put for sale. It's like a Legend of Zelda prototype, or like a demo NES cartridge or something, and he's put it online for like 10 grand or something, or 16 grand or something, because he just sort of said, there's no precedent for this thing. It's like the rarest of the rare. It's not even supposed to, they're all supposed to have been destroyed or something, and it's just madness. But wonderful, glorious madness, and it's all going to burst.
Yeah, it's going to burst.
I found it very interesting.
Like phone cards.
Over in
like phone cards.
I don't know about here, but over in New Zealand, like cash converters are going pretty strong, and they
Wait, is that a New Zealand invention?
they sell a lot of retro games, but it's more expensive to buy a Sega Mega Drive or a Nintendo 64 than it is to buy a PS2.
Yeah, right.
Like they charge a lot of money for a
What
Nintendo
is it?
64.
I should
There's
stock up
game
on
traders
PS2s.
here now, isn't there? They're sort of
And then sell 'em.
small. They're like Electronics Boutique, but they stock old games as well,
yeah.
and they keep all NES games and things. And some of them are like $100 for a gold Legend of Zelda cartridge for the NES, and you're just like, man.
I was very
Crazy.
I was very kind of disappointed that I sold my N64 and all these games, because years later I want to play it.
Yeah, but it's funny as well because even playing ROMs of it on your computer, because the display system is completely different as well. Like when you were playing those original NES games, the pixels weren't crystal clear because the display wasn't crystal
Well,
clear.
yeah, and
it
that's-
wasn't sharp. It was all blurred, and
But
it
that's what they
softened the
reckon.
graphics.
They reckon CRTs
Yeah, well, you need to be playing
hold
it
on
with a
to them
CRT.
because they become so valuable to these.
Well, that's the
collectors.
thing, yeah, because if you're playing with a nice LCD screen or something,
Yeah.
or an LED screen or plasma television or whatever, it's the viewing experience, the
and
gameplay
apparently
is
because it's
completely
digital,
different.
there's a lag between it. Runs CRT,
Well, that's
you got
killing.
direct.
No, it's true. It's killing a lot of rhythm games, like games like Parappa the Rapper. Apparently, it's almost impossible to play that because of the delay, especially in the later stages because it's so specific.
Between the TV and the.
Yeah,
When the
Can you play light gun games on a plasma?
I don't know.
No. You have to. That's why they brought out like the Wii and the Move, because that uses a different technology.
Yeah, when they started installing digital projectors in all the cinemas, one of the first things I did was I invited a bunch of my friends to come in the cinema on a Sunday morning, and we hooked up like a PS3 and a Nintendo Wii,
Wow.
and played it in the cinema. And then we found one of the first games we tried to play was Guitar Hero, but it
Yeah.
was totally unplayable because the lag, by the time it went from your the guitar to the machine to the server to the projector and on the screen, it was like half a second behind or whatever. So you had to
And with
kind
a
of
rhythm game,
compensate
it's-
for it. It was really weird. But it was awesome for like Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Do they ever have any old prints around that you can play? Like,
Well, they kind of get stored because trying to think what happened in Perth when I used to do it here. The distributor was just like this like a shed in out in a business park somewhere. It was just this unit, a business unit. It was just like a storeroom full of old prints. Whereas over in New Zealand, I think most parts of the world that aren't as isolated as Perth, they actually ship the prints straight back to the distributor. But usually, to save on money, they kind of wait for them to build up a while, and then they send it back. So you probably, most cinemas probably have like a year's worth of old movies sitting there, and every so often they just do one big shipment back to the distributors. But I went to the Embassy, which is the big classic cinema in Wellington. It's a beautiful cinema, and that's where they did the world premiere of Return of the King. And they actually still had in the cupboard the 35mm print of Return of the King from the world premiere. It kind of just got used once and then put in the cupboard, and it's still there, like after 10 years.
You're not allowed to pull it out.
Well, I'm kind of tempted to, because now that 35mm is kind of on its way out, all these projectionists are starting to realize, like, oh, this is the last time I'll put a film together, or we'll project a film. And we're all kind of like discussing the fact the last thing you want is for the last film that you ever splice together to be something shit. And I think the last one I put together was like Paranormal Activity 4, and I was like,
they sent that on film.
Yeah, which is really strange. But I think the last thing we're ever
film,
gonna
but I thought it was all
get,
captured with webcams and stuff.
I think the last film we're ever going to get is like the Alex Cross, or possibly the next Twilight movie.
Surely the Embassy they're going to
go out with a bang.
Yeah. So I think we've still got like Dark Knight Rises and Avengers and stuff like that. So I might like splice one of them together and have one last screening before.
What, you're going to cut up Dark Knight and Avengers together?
That would be pretty good. Yeah, just intercut between mix. Batman and
and Return of the King.
Yeah.
All right. So the Embassy's not going to keep a film camera around?
No, I think which is really sad, because they've got this amazing old vintage projector that does both 35 and 70mm. It's an amazing old projector. They kind of dubbed it the Millennium Falcon, because it's not so pretty to look at.
Was anyone showing the Master in New Zealand?
No, maybe they've got one IMAX screen that's up in Auckland, but it's nowhere near as big as the one in... You ever been to the one in Sydney? IMAX?
I flew specifically to Sydney just to see Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
And IMAX. That's the only reason I was there. I went there, then waited at the casino until my flight, and then went home.
I went over there to see Inception. I think that's the only thing I've ever seen in IMAX. I was going to go over for Dark Knight Rises, and then just couldn't find the time,
And what's amazing, it's not just the video that's better, it's the audio as well. You can actually understand what Bane's saying. Compared to the Perth IMAX, I couldn't work out what the hell he was talking about.
I thought Bane was hilarious. Yeah. He sounds like Marvin the Martian crossed with Patrick
We
Stewart.
can't talk about it because Campbell hasn't seen it.
You can talk about what he sounds like.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch, like, the first thing I did after watching Dark Knight Rises is I went home, and on YouTube there are comparison videos where people have put, that first trailer where it had his voice before they went back and kind of rejigged it to make it more understandable.
Well, that's why I wondered, because I saw, I couldn't go on premiere week to Sydney, so I saw it in Perth digital IMAX, which is not good, but it's better than seeing a normal cinema because you get the full aspect ratio. And I couldn't understand what he was saying, because I didn't see it in Sydney for 2 weeks later, so I wonder if maybe they'd shipped another print over because everyone had complained about his voice. Or
no, they just changed it they tweaked it a little bit from when the first, when that 6-minute preview, you saw the first 6 minutes.
I didn't watch that because I refused. I didn't want to see any spoilers or,
Yeah, well, I think I did watch it because I wanted to see what everyone was going on about. I saw it on YouTube because everyone's going about how you couldn't understand what he was saying. And I did notice when I first watched Dark Knight Rises in the cinema that it was a lot easier to understand Bane than it was on that in that first 6 minutes, and they had obviously cleaned the audio up a bit.
Yeah. But I kind of hope that I hope Christopher Nolan and that keep doing, and P.T. Anderson keep do big films on IMAX or 70mm or 65mm, whatever it is, until digital cameras actually catch up to that. You know, eventually, like I've talked about, you'll be able to hold an IMAX camera in your hand because, you know, that's the way technology's going. Is like,
did you have you paid much attention to the kind of controversy around Wally Pfister's comments about Avengers?
no,
He said that.
Oh, yeah.
He made this statement about how
He's right, though.
the cinematography in Avengers, he said, was appalling.
Yeah, I think
didn't
that is the
like it.
word he just,
Yeah.
appalling.
But you know, he's saying things like, yeah, they would pick these camera angles which had no story purpose, just to show off how cool the set looked. But on the other hand, the first thing that made me think of was, well, no matter what crazy angles they had, at least Avengers was in focus. Because that was one of the problems with Dark Knight Rises, was the choices to shoot so much in 70mm meant that there was a lot of soft focus in
I
scenes.
didn't mind it. The thing I hated in Dark Knight, it was just so... for whatever reason, I found it really badly edited.
Yes.
Like, so often it'll cut away from a shot you wanted to see more of. Sometimes it didn't cut quick enough.
there was actually...
And as story-wise, like, I can't talk about it at the end, but he should have cut at a certain point, and that would have made the greatest ending over, but then they had to keep going.
Well, there are actually things in that ending where people who have read the script, which is easy enough to get a hold of, have said that the way that things unfold in the film are different to in the script. Like in the script, things are in a different order, which makes perfect sense. But you can see in the film they've reordered things to just heighten the drama a bit.
Yeah.
But it actually, when you think about it, some of them don't make sense all that much.
I feel like if they've still got all the raw negs around, you could re-edit a way better version of that movie. Like, it seemed to be had all the elements of like a brilliant movie that seemed to be spoiled by editing for me.
Oh, that's a shame.
Anyway,
So you didn't like it after seeing it twice? Is that
no,
what
it was good. It just wasn't Dark Knight good, you know.
Well, I think that I felt like that was kind of like the whole year was kind of disappointing when at the start of the year this like was kind of shaping up to be the most amazing year of movies between Dark Knight Rises and Prometheus and Avengers and like all these films, each one was meant to be like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
And
Not just in big budget, but like I'm obviously a huge fan of Andrew Dominic, his film, the new Baz Luhrmann. I'm a huge fan of him, which is rare. He only makes a film like once every 10 years. And, you know, obviously John Hillcoat's film, Moonrise Kingdom, Wes Anderson, all these lots of little films that just seemed just as exciting to me as the big films as well. Like, and some of them have been good. Looper, that's another thing I've consumed.
I like Looper.
I moved it.
I found Looper disappointing.
Yeah, it wasn't brilliant. I enjoyed it though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I really enjoyed it.
If you got hyped up for that movie, you would have. I didn't like the trailer, so I was a bit down on it. But I really quite liked the trailer, but I found Looper to be this year's Drive. I found it was fine. It was a good, entertaining movie, but there's something about it that just kind of captured people's attentions, and they started proclaiming it greatest movie of the year. And I just think don't overburden it with that's
too
because
much.
I remember I was trying to get Campbell to watch Drive because I knew he'd like it, but I didn't want to hype it up too much. So I was just like, just watch this movie Drive, just watch it, you know, because if you go into thinking Drive, it's so bits of it's so flawed that you hype it up too much, you don't. But if you just go into it and not expecting it, it's just like, whoa, someone made this, you know, like.
So I saw Drive the day after watching 13 Assassins at a film festival.
Yeah.
And so just nothing compared to 13 Assassins.
Oh, really? So that's worth seeing.
That was the greatest movie that I saw last year.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to check that out. So that's what I've been consuming. I saw Looper. I saw it twice because I went and saw it with the commentary track.
How was that? I've been interested.
It was fun. One important note for Australians is he says to start playing at the Paramount logo, but obviously in Australia it's not distributed by Paramount or whoever or TriStar, I can't remember who it is. So you just have to, it's hard to know where to start it because of the weird ads that we get in front of our version of the movie. But yeah, that was fun doing it because he did it for Buzz Bloom and I never got around to seeing it, so I regretted not seeing it.
What is this thing?
Well, he released the director's commentary
So he recorded it, put it on the internet.
Yeah,
and
but
then
instead of a
told you to see his film
DVD, you can
again.
put it as a podcast and take it into the cinema and listen with your headphones.
It's their way of encouraging you to pay for another
Yeah.
ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And in
it's
this day and
clever.
age, you need that.
Yeah.
With so many pirates.
It's
and
really
stuff.
clever. When when you told me you were doing that, I was like, wow.
I just don't want to see a cinema full of people with light coming from their iPad. It's like when
Their
they
headphones in.
Yeah.
Well, they shouldn't do. Once you've got it going, you just
Yeah.
put it in your pocket and go. I did book a seat because you had to book a seat. I had booked a seat in the corner so I didn't disturb anyone.
Oh, you are so considerate.
Why?
No, it's
'cause
great.
I already seen it first time right centre
Yeah,
middle,
yeah,
right
I
where I
know.
like it. But
Yeah.
The other night, I went and saw Lawless and Killing Me Softly, both at Inaloo. And in the last couple of years, I've forgotten how badly behaved Perth cinema audiences are
Oh, yeah.
at particular cinemas.
Answering phones.
Yeah.
Oh, look, what was it?
Yeah.
Lawless. We had these teenagers that you wonder. It's obviously not even their kind of film. You wonder why they're there in the first place. But there was this one girl who answered her phone several times throughout the film, and then would get up, walk outside, come back in, sit down, answer the phone again, walk out, and
People answering their phones in the cinema.
I was wishing I'd gotten a seat on an aisle so I could have just gone straight down there and picked up a phone and
Yeah,
it or something.
yeah.
I didn't want to have to climb over like 5 or 6 people to do it though.
That's very bad.
There is a great video on YouTube actually. Anthony Hopkins, who's doing Hitchcock. They've made this video with him in character as Hitchcock, doing a PR message telling people to turn their phone off before the...
Well, if you go see his trailers for his movies, he always introduces it and said, "This is going to be my new film and this is how it's going to be awesome" before it. And I'm like, man, I wish directors did that now.
Yeah.
I know they sometimes do it for, iTunes, movietrailers.com or whatever, but...
Oh, Hitchcock. I thought you were talking about Anthony Hopkins.
No, sorry, Hitchcock.
I haven't seen him do that ever.
While you're at it, they should they should follow in the vein of Frank Castle and have, skeletons pop out from behind your seat and things.
Or the Tingler, I think they had as well. So what else have we got? There's a lot of show notes, actually. It's
I
quite...
don't think we can
Well,
get through
we've
it
been
all.
building up.
Well, let's just do a kind of machine gun show notes.
I want to talk about stuff that I've been watching. I talked
We
about
haven't
Looper.
even... What? We haven't even gotten through what have you been consuming?
No, Fred talked about it. So I talked about Looper. I also went back...
Anyway.
went back and watched Brothers Bloom, which it was okay. I wasn't a huge fan of that, but it was a fun movie. That's also by Ryan Johnson, director of Looper.
Oh, did I yawn really loud? Sorry.
I've written down. We obviously haven't done a show in a while because I've written down Supreme Commander, which I got back into, which is like,
Total Annihilation?
yeah, it's the sequel of the spiritual sequel of Total Annihilation, which you guys ever play. I know Fred did. Did you play?
What, Total
I was into it
Annihilation?
deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't as deep as you two.
I basically
but-
spent all of Christmas Day playing Total Annihilation and doing nothing else.
Like this was a kid or recently?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
Yeah, okay. And they released Supreme Commander and they made a sequel which was produced by Square. And so I'm not going to play
Square
it.
Enix?
Yeah, Square Enix. And I'm not going to play it. But so the single player has all these sort of like anime characters like facing
Is this
off,
new, is it?
like last year. Like I bought it
Oh.
last year and
Is
I
this
played
still
a bit.
talking about Supreme Commander?
2. The
Oh,
sequel
okay.
to
Oh.
Supreme Commander, yeah.
Because isn't Total Annihilation getting a Kickstarted sequel at the moment?
Right, so
Oh, sorry.
But that's another
so
spiritual
half
successor.
the team, the main guy behind Total Annihilation, he made Supreme Commander as a spiritual sequel because he couldn't retain the rights
Yeah.
to say Total Annihilation 2. And the other guys who worked on Total Annihilation, they've now decided to, because Supreme Commander 2 was a bit of a bomb, and they've kickstarted their own spiritual sequel to Total Annihilation, and it's going to be, I guess it's going to be like Mario Galaxy, where you're playing on sphere planets, stuff like that.
Yeah, what's it called?
Planetary
Planetary Commander or Planetary
Planetary
Annihilation?
Annihilation or something. And I bought my copy already. And
Cool.
who knows when it'll ever be out, or if it does come out. But
Any update on the Leisure Suit Larry remake that's happening on Kickstarter?
No.
Really? HD?
Did it get
Yeah.
funded?
Yeah,
Oh,
got funded,
no,
yeah.
no.
I never played those games. But
Have you been keeping up to date with the Goon Kickstarter that David Fincher's producing?
No, I haven't. I don't have any money to put in there. I did buy Charlie Kaufman's thing that got kickstarted.
Yeah.
I bought that.
Does David Fincher got a Kickstarter?
He's producing.
Holy shit.
Well, they're doing an animated film of the Goon comic book, which they've been trying to get off the ground for a long time, and so they've asked for $400,000 basically to do an animatic of the film. It's just to do the animatic because that'll help get the ball rolling. But I'm surprised it didn't explode. Like, I thought this thing would go nuts and they'd be getting in the millions. But last time I looked at it, it was a few weeks into it, and it was up to about 160,000 or so.
Yeah, the Goon's not that big a property.
Yeah, well,
though.
the Goon's not that big, and with
Fincher,
Kickstarter,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
with Kickstarter saying, "Oh, it's just going to be an animatic," people want their final product. They want to pre-order the movie.
But things either get funded like in the first 48 hours or in the last 48 hours. And if you look at lots of charts and things with Kickstarter, it doesn't matter if your Kickstarter campaign is 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. It's the beginning and the end that like 90% of projects get funded in, I think.
I've been doing a ton of research.
Oh, okay.
Into Kickstarter recently, because we're actually doing a campaign next year, hopefully through Kickstarter and possibly maybe
in
Indiegogo. In Wellington.
Yeah,
but
So
if it goes well, we'll say it happened in Perth.
yeah. Well, in Perth, the film body's saying that if you do one of these and it's successful, we'll match.
But you have to do it through Possible. That's because it's a partnership with Possible.
Kickstarter, you can't.
That's great.
You need a US billing address to use.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, Possible's like the Australian Kickstarter. But it's very interesting, and I hope that more kind of film funding bodies are going to follow that lead. Like we specifically went and had a meeting with the New Zealand Film Commission and basically said, like, check it out. This is, these guys are doing it. Like, what, are you guys going to play ball as well? And follow their lead. Yeah. So it was cool to see, like, WA kind of taking a lead in this. But it's it is very interesting because it's a way not only to raise money, but to prove that, a project that you have, there's a marketable audience for it, that people are willing to actually, put up.
Because I remember you were trying to get the project with the World War I zombie thing.
That's what we're doing the Kickstarter for.
I remember when this whole thing, I was like, I wonder if Brendan would do that, because I know you got a bunch of people to like it on Facebook and stuff, but there's no monetary value in that. Yeah.
No, so basically what we're doing is we've got a sort of a fantastic crew together, because I've kind of been cherry picking all the people I want from, like, kind of PJ's crew, and we're just trying to time our production for when all these people are available in between kind of the big film productions going on, but we need a certain amount of money, so we're going to do a Kickstarter campaign to raise a portion of the budget, but mainly to also show that, to test the waters and see how much of a market there are, how many people kind of would want to see zombies and tanks and things in the same movie. And then if we can raise enough from Kickstarter, then hopefully that'll also be enough to it would give an incentive for the funding bodies and other parties to kick in the rest of the money and get us over the line and into a green light.
Cool. Well, if you're back in Perth, you need to record a director's commentary. Come down here.
Lovely screens to watch the telly.
Yeah.
Lovely CRT.
I'm sure once we're doing our crowdfunding campaign, we'll be plugging it everywhere and drumming up support wherever we can.
79 listeners.
Most of them are in Korea, so you'll have to do a Korean dub.
Big in Korea.
We talk about this every week. We're huge in Korea.
Who our fans are. It's too hard.
A third of our listeners are Korean. Right.
So one person.
Zing.
So maybe I should transition to science news. We've been talking about the arts a bit. A heap. I was watching an episode of the new season of Big Bang Theory, which Fred hates as a scientist.
I don't hate it. It's just...
but I had to... I wanted to bring it up because they've had the most realistic depiction of space travel since Apollo 13 on their show.
What does that mean?
Yeah, one of the characters went to the ISS, right? So they actually filmed scenes in a Soyuz... Well, I don't know if I don't think they used a real Soyuz capsule, but tried to. Obviously, the set was a Soyuz capsule, you know, and then they went up to space, and he had to be like, you know, feeling sick from the weightlessness, which is all true, and you know, they didn't show any of the glamour of it at all, and then he had to come back to Earth with a thud.
So within the world of the show, one of the characters actually went to ISS,
Yeah.
or he had a dream he went to the ISS.
No, he actually went to the ISS. Yeah.
Kind of belittles it a little, doesn't it?
The ISS or the show?
Yeah, those.
Are you thinking Big Bang Theory jumped
Well,
the
they're
shark?
all meant to be. They're all meant to be like, you know, world-renowned scientists and engineers
they?
and stuff. Yeah.
I've never seen this show. Admittedly, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Well, that's what amazed me. I was so impressed. Most of these shows are like, oh, jump on the space shuttle even though it's retired and go up and you walk around the ISS because they've suddenly invented gravity and
What most shows do this?
You know,
Or
other
movies
shows- other
you've
shows-
seen
yeah.
where characters
like
that episode of
like
Becca,
Armageddon. Yeah.
that wonderful one in
No,
Frasier
just
where he
movies
goes.
movies as well.
Oh, okay, all right.
I gotta say, some of the this is super nerdy. Some of the equations on the walls of that show are real and written down correctly.
That's what I'm saying.
So they have science advisors to tell, and what they talk about is, I don't know if it really makes sense, but you know, it's real words, scientific words. So, but they must have a scientific advisor who said, "Well, if we're going to go to space."
So anyway, I got pretty excited that they had actually gone to some effort, and they even got one of the real astronauts to be the guest pilot on the show, but they ruined it almost the next episode after that storyline finished by having one of the characters like have a hologram that was like amazing and stuff like that. So
Well, I was going to say, are they going to get into kind of science fiction territory? I mean, that'd be the
that'd
perfect
be
sort
cool
of show
if they
where
started going to the
they could have
future.
time travel
Yeah.
stuff and be like
Then it's gonna
revisiting
jump
past
the
episodes.
shark. That is shark jumping. When like future
Oh,
Wallowitz.
what? When he goes to the ISS? No, that's full on.
I start to have problems with Big Bang Theory. I love the show, but like,
Oh, okay.
there are some times where I have problems with just kind of the nerd aspects of it. I don't think in some
It's
instances
negative
don't
stereotype.
ring true. No, there's one episode that kind of bugs me where Sheldon is he's in this argument and he's arguing that Wolverine should have like bone claws. Which is something that got retconned in X-Men. It's like with Star Wars, the whole argument with Han shot first. Like it's kind of, I find it really against Sheldon's character that he'd be such a Luddite. Like he would be kind of arguing, you know, at first, you know, this is the way it was.
I thought
in
he
the
did
beginning.
have bone claws.
No,
first.
that's something they added. Frank Miller added it way later on.
Oh, okay.
So originally,
But
no.
then which one are we? Oh, okay. But
So-
then who? How? Okay.
So originally, the first iteration of
when
Wolverine,
he was in the Hulk.
Yeah, like the first
Yeah.
iteration of Wolverine, like the claws were implanted, and
Okay.
and then, you know, but in the show, like, as he holds up this issue of X-Men as evidence, but it's like such a later issue, you know?
Right,
And it's
okay.
like, yeah.
Well, I always thought. I assume that's just a preference thing, then, isn't it? To say.
But
I think I know what you mean.
yeah.
though.
But
I
as
know
a
what
character, like, Sheldon, he's always got to be like, you know, the one to,
you be right.
yeah, and yeah, I don't know. It bugged me a little because I was like, surely he would be the one who like tries to prove how hardcore a fan he is by knowing, you know, the origins, like,
The
back-
action, yeah. But things get retconned so often, don't they? But Wolverine's such a anyway.
The other thing I want to talk about is the this show has unintentionally created one of the strangest sort of characters on TV, you know, and it seems to be completely by accident. I don't think the creators have put any thought into this, because originally the idea was there's 4 geek guys and there's one, you know, blonde girl, bit of a bimbo who wants to be an actress, and that's how they meet up, right? But then the cast expanded where 2 of the characters got like long-term partners, which were both their geek girls. So now it's like got to the point. So there's 6 geeks and still this one blonde girl called Penny, and I rewatched the whole show to try and get my
At
head
1.5
around this.
speed.
Yeah, at 1.5 speed to get my head around this, because I after the show's been on for a while, I'm like, where's this character storyline like going? And basically this girl, she basically ends up part of the group because she starts dating this guy because it's her last straw. Like it's sort of set up as this romantic thing, but then when you rewatch the show, she starts becoming, because of her failure as an actress, she starts drinking more and stuff like that, and eventually she just gives up and it's like, oh fine, you can be my boyfriend now, right? Rather than the romantic thing, like the romantic
It's
kind
not
of
a pinnacle. It's a
yeah, they're not the romantic ideal. Like they actually found each other through the division of their two cultures. It's more like she just gave up and like she's resisted, right? And then they broke up for a while, and of course, he got all this action, but then she become more and more of a loser, like becoming more of an alcoholic and not having a job and stuff like that. And she started becoming more friends with his friends, but they didn't have anything to do with it. Now they're trying to bring them back together, but it just seems like clear, like for him, he's like, oh, awesome, I'm with this hot girl, but she's just like become this most pathetic character, like almost like reminds me of, in a very sterile way, Dee from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh yeah,
which is intentionally made to be the worst possible character, But this is.
But she has massive flaws though. Dee from Sunny.
Yeah. Well, she
belongs there because occasionally they make out that they drag her down, but she always.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this show is like trying to make out that this Penny character is she's trying to cross the boundaries between nerds and non-nerds or whatever, but she's really just become this pathetic character. And it's just a weird, fascinating thing to see what they try and do with this character.
Brendan? Thoughts? I've never seen this show.
I don't know if they ever intended the show to run as long as it has been. Like, I think the success has kind of surprised them, and they're just kind of trying to keep it going season by season. So they don't really have. They always run into just problems with TV shows when they have two characters like hook up, because you can only keep the will they won't they thing going so long, and then as soon as they actually get together, it's like happened in was it Moonlighting with Bruce Willis? Like that died as soon as they got together. And things like Bones and all those shows. Like as soon as they kind of get together.
What about X-Files?
And that's what was kind of cool about. Like I watch Castle sometimes, mainly just because Nathan Fillion is in it. But that's kind of good because like they've kept the two characters apart as long as they can. Because as soon as they get together, the show's over.
I really want Penny to get to steal. What's his name's? Who's the theoretical physicist? Sheldon. Steal his virginity and make a huge bust up with his girlfriend and stuff like that. That'll be just let the whole.
Sounds like you need to do some fanfic.
Yeah, I want to do this.
Have you ever watched the?
I've written some Gossip Girl fanfiction because they have a very similar character, Blair, where all the other characters in the show are just terrible, and there's one character, Blair, who they've accidentally made this really sort of dynamic character that has to overcome her flaws and goes on a journey to become a better person.
Have you thought about kickstarting any of these?
Can I show Zoe your Gossip Girl fanfic?
No, but I'm writing a piece that obviously I'm going to change the names, but people who know Gossip Girl, and if this movie gets made, they'll go, "Oh my god, it's all connected." It's like a spiritual sequel to her storyline.
Gossip Girl to a TV show that's currently running.
So this is
but it's going to be its last season.
This is going to be your 50 Shades of Grey.
That's exactly.
No, it's going to be way more cool than that. I haven't read 50 Shades of Grey. Could be cool.
It's not.
No,
but it's going to be like Total Nation Supreme Crown is going to be a spiritual sequel to. Yeah.
But the people from Spiritual, you have to have something to do with the original to justify the spiritual sequel.
Yeah, I watched it, Fred.
Are you doing a lot of shipping in this? Is there a lot of
shipping?
Relationships.
Oh, relationships.
It's where you as a reader really believe in a relationship between two characters that's never going to happen and isn't meant to happen.
So you just make it happen in your own work?
Yeah, so often in fanfic,
Is that the term?
Yeah, Draco and Snape are totally having it off. They're meant to be lovers.
Yeah,
and it's no, they're not.
No, it's not going to be like that, but it's
a bit like that.
No,
just a little bit.
But I do want to do that with other things, though.
Oh, yeah.
But not this,
like Becca?
not the Gossip Girl one.
I want to do a Becca one with...
No, well, lots of people... Okay, so, I'm like a Jane Austen fan, and lots of people do this. They try and take some of their characters off and try and do spin-offs, as fan fiction, but I have an idea that's way better than all the others. Because I tried to read some others and it just...
Is it like Pride and Prejudice and zombies?
No, it's like that, but actually good. And no zombies.
Oh.
You're gonna write it in the style.
In the style, yeah. How did we even get onto this? Oh, Big Bang
Penny
Theory.
you were talking
Sorry.
about from Big Bang.
Oh, yeah. So I was trying to transition to science here so we can keep moving on.
Yeah, so is that a girl thing or what? Fred?
What?
No,
Is
we
what a
got
girl
some
thing?
follow-up, okay? So last episode, we were talking about...
Gravity?
Yeah, we were talking about...
Is that a girl thing?
Trying to work out what height you have to be to feel weightless. Like what height off the ground after that Red Bull space jump thing. So this Mad Hatter wrote...
Are you going to read the whole thing? It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too long, James.
Well, Fred...
But first of all, thank you, Mad Hatter, for
Thank you
writing
very
to
much.
us.
He ran into a lot of trouble to answer my question.
Yeah, it's really accurate.
But
Well,
basically, he's trying to work out at what
really
height. Yeah, because I mean, the question is that obviously you're never going to be perfectly weightless, like zero gravity, right?
Yeah.
But what point, say, if you're the idea being, what point if you were setting up a space hotel, how high would you have to build it off the ground for your customers to go, hey, I'm enjoying this zero gravity, you know, without being in free fall? And so he answered this question.
what was he saying? It's beyond the kind of orbit of the moon.
No, he's basically saying that you can, at some point, it'll...
But at what point does the human body just sort of go, whoa,
So
I'm
he's saying,
weightless?
so if I
Exactly.
built a tower 36,000 miles tall and stood on top of it, I would be 40,000 miles from Earth's center of gravity instead of 4,000. I would weigh, and I would weigh 2.6 pounds instead of 260 pounds. And he says, but is that weightless? That's up to you. That's up to the customer side. Like, that's ultimately what you're doing as a business.
When you set up your hotel, you just say, we guarantee less than point...
Yeah.
Yeah. 1 G.
His maths doesn't make any sense there.
I think it
But like-
does. I changed my mind.
What? If you go, so if you're 40,000 instead of 4,000, the
Yeah.
weight would decrease exponentially, though, wouldn't it? So it wouldn't
No,
be
so it's proportional to the factor squared.
factor of x squared. Yeah. So
So if you go 10 times higher, you'd be 100 times less.
oh, it's 10 times higher.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah, right.
4,000
Okay, yeah.
to
So he goes to
40,000.
2. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
I've
But
said
sometimes
before,
when I've
it's
been laying down watching something or reading a book and I sit up really quickly, I feel weightless.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to be on the second story of
It's
a
like
building.
sometimes if I drink heavily, so everything's spinning around and like
Well, you know, there you
you're in
go.
orbit or something.
Whole bottle of vodka guaranteed to make you feel weightless.
Well, yeah, it's just whatever distance you have to be
Yeah.
in orbit. Really, as long as you can get it in orbit,
You'll be fine.
it'll be effectively weightless.
So is someone suggesting we build a space hotel?
They already have.
No, well, because obviously the problem that comes up, the reason we brought this up last week is 'cause everyone, when you ask this question, what height do you have to be if you're weightless? And then everyone says, well, technically, at some point you're going to feel gravity from some body in the universe, no matter how far you are away from anything. You know, there's always going to be something dragging you in. But doesn't really answer. I think.
I don't think it's a question of free fall because aren't satellites several hundred kilometers from the surface of the Earth? How high is a satellite?
Yeah, but he was also saying that if you built a tunnel under the Earth and you could orbit inside it and basically free fall inside it at going at the right speed, so you're in a state of free fall without touching the other side for a long time,
Yeah.
you would still feel weightless.
You
Just
would.
as like the vomit comets, you can take the planes and feel weightless by doing certain revolutions, right?
Yeah, but that's all orbiting is. You could orbit. Oh, is this true? You could orbit this far above the surface of the Earth and feel weightless, I think.
But what if you
going
wanted to
sufficiently
orbit? You
fast.
didn't want to orbit,
Yes,
so you
as
can
long as-
always looking down on top of Australia, whatever.
But
view
they have
you
that.
want.
It's called geosynchronous orbit. Basically, you just orbit
Okay.
far enough out that you're always looking at the same spot.
But would you feel weightless up there?
That's the whole point, I think. And this is, I should know this. I have vision fits. But it's like if you're in the space shuttle and you're orbiting around, you feel weightless because you're basically constantly in free fall, and so there's no net gravity on you. But if you're blasting out on a rocket just straight up, you don't necessarily feel like weightlessness until one, you've stopped accelerating because even if there's no gravity, if you're accelerating, you'll still feel the push, and you're like quite far from the Earth. Because if a satellite's only orbiting at several hundred kilometers, I don't know if that's true, but I don't think it's like thousands of kilometers that they orbit. That's not that far from the surface of the Earth. You know, the atmosphere is only 100 kilometers
No.
high, and the actual Earth is 2,000 kilometers to the center. So it's like this little sliver on top.
Yeah, you might as well be a meter
So
off
it's not like the
ground.
gravity has diminished because you're further away. It's just sort of gone because you're in this free fall.
But so, like, if you're flying you got the Starship Enterprise or whatever, and you're flying from Milky Way to the Andromeda Galaxy, and you're in the middle or you're halfway, you're a quarter way there,
Yeah.
right? When you jump up, you don't fall fast back towards the Milky Way, do you?
No.
You sort of
absolutely not.
float
You just
back,
float.
yeah.
There'd been zero.
Even though there is
zero
some, you might slowly move back.
Yeah, but
towards.
they're talking like minuscule amounts. It's like, in
So
theory.
a customer would be satisfied if they wanted a weightless experience. They'd be satisfied by
Well,
the
you
thing
just
is,
orbit
like-
and then you'd be weightless.
The thing is, if we're talking about ourselves as, sensory organs, an arrangement of sensory organs, and we're talking about light waves and sound waves and things, our organs aren't sufficiently developed to be able to register those slight differences. Do you know what I mean? So, like a weightlessness that you feel on a roller coaster, that's about as weightless
So,
as
yeah,
we can
it's-
feel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
well,
know?
well, yeah. I mean, like free fall is really the only way to do it, because if you're talking about like, it depends how you're sensing, weightless. If it's just the fact your body's floating, or say, because even if you're like in an orbit, in a very low orbit, you still have basically like a like centrifugal force acting on your organs. Your even just in your ears, like
I
your
think
sense
it's-
of balance. You
Yeah,
still.
I think it's less a question of physics, and it's more a question of how our body
How you feel.
senses those things. Yeah, what your feelings
I
are.
was talking to this German guy at this conference about the vomit comment, and he was saying there's like a guy who runs this forest line. There's a guy who runs the throttle, the pitch, and one guy does the yaw, one guy does the engine. They have to work in perfect tandem to actually get this thing. And despite all these instruments, what they do is they fly up, and the guy, he has a ballpoint pen, and he picks it up, and he just like places it like in the cabin in front of him, and he basically just watches it and keeps it in the same spot relative to himself. And that's basically how they fly the thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's crazy.
Oh, thanks, Mad Hatter, going to the trouble.
Yeah,
of
no,
saying
that was a
Phil.
fantastic.
While we're on that topic, have any of you guys? None of you guys have seen the Total Recall remake?
no,
No.
So
but I don't plan on. So feel free to spoil
But
it.
that
for
drove me crazy, because the whole idea is they've got this gravity elevator where basically they ship people from one side of the Earth to the other by just dropping them straight through the center of the Earth. But they obviously understand that gravity is somehow related to the center of the Earth, and if you were at the center of the Earth, you'd be weightless. They just don't understand the actual physics behind it, because what happens in the movie is the people are on this elevator and they're dropping towards the center of the Earth in free fall, but the whole time there's just normal, G1 gravity inside the cabin. As soon as they hit the center of the Earth, bang, everything's weightless, and the whole thing just revolves around, like all their seats revolve upside down. So then once they like shoot out the other side of the center of the Earth, they hurtle towards, to wherever the destination is, and then straight away there's full gravity again. So obviously they're thinking like
That's the weirdest thing.
yeah, and it drove me crazy.
But why do they have a tunnel? We've got a perfectly good way of getting people from one side.
But you
of
could
the
just
Earth to
drop
the
them,
other.
I think. As long as there's no air resistance, if you drop them, they would
Yeah.
just go
Oh,
all the way through the end, and you just like catch them.
Wouldn't once
No.
you get past the middle, it start to pull them
Yeah,
back?
exactly.
Yeah, so it's like
Well,
a harmonic
you-
potential.
you
but
would- you would-
still work.
Yeah, you would hit like terminal velocity, and then once you pass the middle, like
So you have
gravity
to be
would
some
start.
height off the ground to make up the difference on the other end.
But you just give it it's like a swing, right? You swing back and forth, but you just give it a
Yeah,
little
but every
push and
time you go up, that's why that physics experiments they do in class where the guy throws a pendulum at himself and it never hits him again.
Yeah, exactly. But if you
can't-
gave it a
couldn't
little
even-
push, it
you
would
couldn't
just
even
come
give them a
back.
push, because once they'd hit terminal velocity, they wouldn't keep accelerating.
No, if there is air resistance, right? But let's
Yeah,
say you
right.
sucked all the air out of the tube, they would just accelerate towards
Alright.
the middle, and then they just keep
Well, there's
going through
obviously
the end.
air in the tube, because at some point they climb outside the elevator, and it gets really absurd.
But you could just put some engines on.
I wanna see
enough
this
to
movie
count for that scene.
I want to see this.
How bad it is.
Bad interpretation of how gravity works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they mention at all how the tunnel was made?
No, you just meant to forget that and forget how they don't melt when they go through the center of the Earth.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I have
really
I have
hurting
a
my
problem, and I was reminded by this by Looper as well. There's like all these filmmakers who come up with these really creative things because they understand the basic theories behind science, but not the actual logic. And so they come up with things that are terribly creative, but actually make no scientific sense. And I found a lot of the time travel stuff in Looper was the same. They come with
that's why they have that
come with
cool
some really
scene with Bruce Willis where he's like, you can start drawing diagrams with straws and fuck that. And
but that's a cop out. That's such a cop out.
But they wouldn't even make any sense. Like we,
but there's stuff
they
like
actually shot his explanation. They just cut out the
good
final
because I don't
sentence.
think you can.
But the stuff like like every time travel movie, they lay out the rules.
But you
of time
hate a
travel.
timeline for just saying.
No, but that's different because this is just like forget about it. Just don't even worry about it. It doesn't make any sense. Timeline is like it's quantum mechanics, so we do this stuff,
Yeah.
but then just forget about it.
But even
so
Science
forget quantum
fiction, so it
mechanics.
probably hasn't been invented yet. So how could he explain it? He would have to invent the
No,
thing
but
that
don't
he's talking
invoke something that has an explanation and has rules, and then say we're not going to obey them. Make up something else.
that's
you
the
know?
thing. Like Looper, like they basically they lay out, they imply rules for how this all works,
Yeah.
and then ignore them. Like they
This is-
absolutely contradict their own rules they've implied.
This is
Yeah,
why the
Bruce
problem I
Willis
have
told me
with
not to
Looper
worry about
is
it.
I think I just don't like any time travel stuff at all. I'm always nitpicking and going,
What about Austin Powers?
I watched that last
Was
night.
it 3 or something?
Yeah.
2. I
Is it
watched
2?
that literally last
Because
night.
that's what comes to mind, where he's sort of going, oh, time travel, and then, he's like, oh, don't worry about
Yeah.
it. And then he looks into the camera and he's like, and don't you worry about it either.
Yeah,
And it's just like, I mean, it's a completely different type of film, obviously. But yeah, as long as they set up what are the rules in this film,
yeah.
that's fine.
But
it's
I can
like,
even deal
can you
with
change the past? Yep, that's all right.
yeah,
you can't change the past?
I still can't
That's all right.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
I still go, fine, you've set the rules, but I don't
The problem I had with Looper was they set the rules,
And then they
they
broke it.
actually broke their like halfway through the movie they changed their mind of what the rules were.
Yeah, right. Because like even the Back to the Future, like he's got a photo and the photo's slowly fading as he's failing to get his mum and dad to hook up.
Which
and it's sort of like, that doesn't make any sense, but okay, that's the way you're going to do
I
it.
kind of love it because it's kind of funny because you're like, well, there was a tombstone, but now that guy doesn't die, but the photograph still exists because for some reason someone in the past still took a photograph of this patch of dirt where the tombstone theoretically would have been an
but
alternative
it's not.
timeline.
Yeah. Or like, his hand starts slowly vanishing. It's like,
Yeah,
okay,
but
that's your rule. That's fine.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm...
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, as long as you've got your own system and it's consistent.
Yeah. But the Terminator movie is like, they're fine because like it just gets the ball rolling, and then you don't just sit there and go like, why didn't Skynet just send the
Send back-
Terminator a minute earlier and just learn their lesson and just go back a little bit earlier and shoot Sarah Connor 5 minutes before that.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah. But that's fine. Yeah. You sort of you get swept up in it. As long as you can get swept up in it.
So if you make a bad film with good logic, it's crap. But if you make a good film with
I'm having
bad
serious
logic,
deja vu. I think we've had the exact same
We've
conversation.
talked about time travel lots of times. If you'd like, we could go back and listen to them. Travel back and forwards.
Other things I had in science news is, do you ever want to know how fast the internet is in space?
Yes.
Do I ever want to
We had
know?
this discussion before.
What do you mean?
We're talking about if you went to Mars, like the LAN, there'd be too much lag.
Like,
Oh, right, yes.
You could never do anything.
So yeah, it's basically saying you can sometimes get a really fast connection, but you get heaps of lag. You can get up to 10 megabits per second downloads and 3 megabytes upload, which I would love to have here. But you do get a huge amount of lag because you're going over huge distances. So that's it. Also, did you guys watching the Hawaii tsunami live?
no, it freaked me out a bit.
Yeah, well, they had, because I was tuned into the Hawaiian chain stations, like, their cameras fixed on the beach, and everyone was like sucked. And some people were like, "Oh, screw it, I'm going to be on the beach and die." And it was such a real surreal thing. Like, is it coming? It's due to come at any moment now. But then it never came. But,
Nothing.
Huh?
There was nothing.
Oh, there was like a 1 meter rise and swell or something, but there was no wave. But just the anticipation was one of the most exciting pieces of TV.
Has it hit Manhattan yet?
No, but it
No,
did
it's gonna hit Manhattan.
No, that's the hurricane. That's a separate incident.
Oh, okay.
Now, one place that tsunami did hit was Crescent City, California, which turns out to be the tsunami capital of the world. and basically every tsunami in the Pacific Ocean just hits this one city, and it's like it got it's been totally destroyed back in like the 60s. It got hit really badly in the Japan thing last year, and yeah, obviously just the place it is in the Pacific Ocean, just everything, it gets hit there all the time.
And they're not going to just
you'd think they'd move away and
pull
just
the pin
say,
on it,
hey,
just be like,
you know,
all right, we
just ride
tried.
it out for the next 50 years until the next one comes out. You know, maybe you'll be dead by then. Who cares? But yeah, I'll
right.
put a link to Crescent City in the show notes.
Crescent City. Well, good luck, Crescent City.
It's quite funny because, you know, Perth, like 30 kilometres in from the coast is all, you know, less than...
Well, that's another thing. CSIRO just released a computer simulation of what happened if a tsunami hit Perth, and basically if you study at Notre Dame, you're dead. You know, and Fremantle, that's going to just get wiped out.
Well, most of it, Perth's all on a coastal plain, so all of it will pretty much just get wiped.
Yeah, the Swan Coastal Plain. Good luck.
I heard
It's got to live beyond the Darwin Scarp.
It's quite interesting in Wellington because it's all hills around the coast, and they go out and they've got these blue lines. They might you'll have a suburban road going up a hill, and at a certain point, they've painted this blue line on the road, and the top edge of it is like in a wave pattern, and it's the tsunami safe line. So theoretically, if tsunami, I don't know how they know the average size of tsunami, but theoretically, that's how high the water will hit.
Wow, so they're like, if you want to get to high ground,
Yeah, go above this line, and theoretically you'll be safe.
Wow, that's clever.
We don't have any... Do we have any disaster...
Bushfires?
But they don't tell you what to do. I guess they do. Fight or flee.
Yeah, fight or flee. Turn your air conditioner's fan off, but leave the water on.
Really?
Because the fan sucks in the ashes and it sets your house roof on fire.
You just get out the garden hose, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. You wet your roof.
Or you scuba dive in the pool.
Surely during the Cold War, Perth must have had some sort of plan in case of nuclear.
Oh,
Because you used to have civil defence shelters and all that sort of stuff. And air. Do we even have air raid sirens?
The modern building at Perth Modern
Yeah, I heard.
was
That's how it
designed to be a hospital if there was a Cold
yeah,
War.
Actually, that's true. I
Yeah.
remember hearing that. That's
Oh,
why it was.
wow.
Like, remember how
Yeah.
it was like really big corridors, and all the doors were like these big
those
sliding doors,
yeah.
so that they could take the overflow from PMH in the case of like a natural disaster.
Shit, that makes perfect sense.
Um,
Wow. Now that I think about it, it's hard to imagine it not being a hospital,
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
There was
That's weird.
Yeah, I went to Trinity College in the city, and there used to be... So Trinity's the boys' school, and there's Mercedes, which is the girls' school. And during the Second World War, there was actually a tunnel system linking the two schools.
Was it used for
and it
hijinks
was-
later on?
Well, see, everyone went looking for it, but what no one seemed to remember was like the college, like in the war, at the time of the war, it was called CBC Perth. Everyone looked for this tunnel and where it could be. No one stopped to think that in the 60s the school was relocated.
That's great.
Imagine you're a boarder and you find the tunnel that goes to the girls' school.
The thing that was amazing, though, when in the 60s, when they relocated the school, they had 3 different locations. Like, one's where it ended up now next to the cricket field, but one of them was in the middle of Harrison Island. So the school would be like Alcatraz, just on this
Yeah.
island in the middle of the river.
The state library was originally at one point, and the state museum were both proposed to be on Harrison Island. They were like, "Yeah, this should be the cultural centre." I don't know who came up with that idea, but it got shot down.
we don't have time to talk about it today, but I actually have been reading up about lots of old Perth building stuff, but I'll talk about that now.
Or maybe next week we can do a heritage episode.
And there's some interesting things about, where stuff is now.
Because I think next week is Heritage Week or something.
Oh, tomorrow is Halloween as well. I don't know if we have any Halloween stories to tell.
I think it's
tomorrow. No, it's the next Wednesday.
Is it? I can't remember.
31st.
31st. Oh, does October have 31 days?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow,
Wow.
that's why it's so spooky.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll have to
Kept
come up
thinking-
with ghost stories. I read a ghost story when I was in Melbourne.
What are you going to tell it today? This will be like a...
Oh, okay. I'll put it in the show notes for next week. It's called Ted's Cave Story.
Halloween's... No one's going to care about Halloween next week.
What? Isn't it next week?
No, it's tomorrow.
Wednesday.
2 days' time.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you a spooky story. It's called Ted's Cave Story, and it's like a web ghost story, and it's pretty cool. Have you guys seen it at all? It's like a caving journal about this guy and his friend who like explore this cave.
It's a website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look up Ted's Cave Story, and it just documents. It's just his diary that he kept as he was exploring this cave, and they're digging out this hollow, like this. They're cavers and they're using technical terms, but it's like a small hole that wind blows through, so you know it connects to another part of and you can go through, and so they dig it out and
it's creepy.
Yeah, it gets creepy.
Does he die? And his
No, he
website's
doesn't
been
die.
left there as a
Well, you should check
warning.
it out. It's scary.
I don't want to. I hate scary things. I'm not going to.
Yeah,
So
I probably
deal
shouldn't
with
have
that.
read it.
I know you may.
You'll never cave again.
You're obviously
Yeah.
trying to make a zombie World War One film.
Mm-hmm.
Are you big into horror, or is it?
Yeah, but I really kind of hate a lot of the stuff that gets made these days. Like,
Like Paranormal Activity?
What sort of horror do you like? What's the horror that you like?
Well, what I really like the classic zombie films because the horror doesn't come from the monsters. Like the zombies were just kind of like a metaphor for anything. It was just they were just representative of like the slow encroach of death, like this imminent demise. And it's really the horror came from the way that humans would turn on each other when faced with imminent death, and how these survival instincts would kick in. That's that kind of like horror that I really like, where it's really just showing
But also-
society collapsing, and
And it's that slow death as well, because the zombies are slow and they're stupid, and you can hold them off for a while. I like the zombies that are slow and stupid. You can hold them off for a while, and so it's not just like, oh, quick, they're coming, oh, quick fight, boom, 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 boom. It's like, oh, they're surrounding us, and there's more, and oh, we got rid of 4 of them, but 3 more showed up this morning, and it's like this constant grind of torturous kind of
Well, that was the real kind of impetus that drove us that led to this project. Was we wanted to do a return to the traditional slow zombies. And we're trying to think, how do you make them as scary as possible and threatening as possible? So that's how we kind of led to setting it in the Somme in World War One, because not only is like the characters are trapped in this trench, it's basically like you're trapped in a maze, and the trenches were all laid out in a zigzagging pattern, so you couldn't just fire straight down a trench line and kill everyone inside it. There's all these corners everywhere like a maze. So suddenly zombies could be anywhere, even though they're slow. Like they can just sneak up on you, and they could be anywhere. And and then the characters, nowadays zombies don't seem that threatening these days because characters always got machine guns and things. It's easy enough to find guns, whereas in that setting, characters all got like a bolt action rifle, and there's only so many shots in a magazine, and so and even that, like soldiers were issued like 3 rounds a day. So even if they're lucky and they hadn't seen action in a week, they only got so many rounds. And the other thing as well is like you've never probably found, there's never been a setting in human history where there would be just so many corpses. Like the ground was just like the place was just an enormous graveyard, and there were hundreds of thousands of people just being killed constantly and just sinking into the mud. And we're really going back to old school zombies, where it's not just like a virus that people get bitten and they turn to zombies. It's actually like Night of the Living Dead, when it's once this kind of phenomena starts happening, all the newly dead rise, and you can have and they emerge from the ground, and so it's like
And so you're gonna do it like Tarantino did with Inglourious Basterds, and like sort of retcon World War II, or are you just going to set it sort of in its own universe that happens to be having a war at the same era in technology production? So it's like World War One, but zombies exist in this world.
Our approach to it is basically
Get ready to rumble.
what would have happened had zombies just turned up at this point in history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to try and include World War One real history mixing with this zombie world. Yeah.
And it's apart from the presence of zombies, the idea is to make it completely historically accurate. I mean, even like any other zombie film, like I hate seeing films that just become dated. Really, like as soon as you have like films that rely upon a certain piece of technology, or you set a film in the future, at some point it's going to become really dated.
Yeah.
And so people say, oh, you make a modern zombie film, but if someone returns to that film in 30 years' time, they'll be like, you look at Dawn of the Dead now, everyone knows, there was no zombie apocalypse in the 80s. So what's the difference with making a film in World War One? People know there was no zombie apocalypse in World War One, but it's it's still going to be, when people look at it decades from now, it's still going to be in a period setting. And so every zombie movie is effectively an alternate reality.
So we've got to wrap up. I thought we'll end with our questions of the week. I was going to ask you guys, what virtual characters would you like to see perform live in concert? Like, I don't know if you've seen the whole hologram thing. Like, they had the gorillas performing, so there's a hologram using that old stage effect. Then they had Tupac perform
with Snoop Dogg. That was pretty cool.
My friend got me into these videos. Fred, don't delete that.
No.
A friend got me into these this YouTube videos of these anime concerts where they've got like an anime girl singing to a crowd and everyone's like getting into it and obviously singing some J-pop. I was wondering if is there any characters, not just resurrected like Tupac, but any characters or anything like that you would like to see perform actually on stage as a hologram?
Gem
in a crowd?
And the holograms.
Gem?
She was truly, truly, truly outrageous. Do you know Gem?
No.
Oh, it was an 80s cartoon.
Alright.
Like Barbie, except she was in a band.
Like Josie and the Pussycat.
Just like Josie and the Pussycat / Barbie, but I had a Gem doll. She was really cool, and it came with a cassette tape. So when you bought it came with a cassette, like a single, I guess it was. And you should look them up. They're really cool. Anyway,
put it in the
Gem and the holograms. Well, who better to...
Good music though?
So what, you had to
I don't know.
dance along to the tape kind of idea?
Oh, yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Was it a good song?
I don't remember. I wish I did.
Yeah.
I wish I still had it.
It's probably on YouTube somewhere. We'll have to look it up.
Oh, it'd definitely
bring it back
be.
next week.
Yeah, Gem and the holograms. Well, they were holograms. Fred?
I can't think of any. A performer.
But it could be anyone because it's virtual. So it could be someone that's dead like Tupac, or it could be a virtual character like the Gorillas.
I could watch a movie of these people.
No, but you've got to be in the crowd and experience the live.
Watch the movie in a crowd.
Didn't you see Tupac?
I haven't seen any
of
these holograms.
Oh, well, I put the links in the show notes, so you could have checked it out.
Maybe after the show you have to watch.
But it's basically watching a movie. What's the difference?
No, but
you're in the crowd.
You can have a crowd watching a movie. Like, if it's about the crowd.
Well, what about when you went and saw Daft Punk, Fred?
Yeah, but I think they basically pushed play on their little
and how was
triangle
it?
Spaceship. Yeah, it was great. So Daft Punk.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but that was because of the crowd.
That's what we're saying.
But it's like saying who
do you think would get the crowd? What holograms would get the crowd in?
Tupac. I don't know.
Tupac obviously did, but
Biggie Smalls.
Biggie Smalls, okay.
I don't know. There's no one that I'm just sort of...
I'm having trouble getting past, like, I don't know, I think it's because it started with gorillas and I was thinking of like cartoon characters and things. I got stuck on...
you can pick anyone, it doesn't have to be...
the thing I got stuck in my head now is, what was it, like in Donkey Kong 64, and they're all in a band? Like, all the characters in the band. I just think how great it would be to see like a Donkey Kong band doing a concert.
They had some pretty cool beats, though.
Oh, the DK rap was awesome.
Nintendo should get into virtual concerts, I reckon. It could be next big thing for Nintendo.
Why not? James, what about you?
Maybe like a virtual hologram fight?
What, like going to a boxing ring?
Abraham Lincoln versus Bill Clinton or something.
Yep. And they can choreograph the whole fight. You wouldn't know who's going to win.
Yeah, I can...
Make it 3D.
Actually.
You're in the crowd, like...
No, you ever seen Epic Rap Battles of History?
I have, I think, yeah.
Yeah, because there was one the other day where they had, like, Obama versus Romney, and then at the end, it's, Jefferson just drops in, like flies in on an eagle and shuts them both down. I was like, that's
no way.
If they did a concert, like a hologram concert of like epic rap battles, all those, that would be a pretty cool compilation.
I'll make that my own epic rap battles. We could have a lightning bolt shooting out of people's hands and things. I don't know how holograms work, but yep.
I was thinking like you have like Jessica Rabbit and like.
You guys remember celebrity boxing, but with the claymation ones?
Yeah.
Kind of like that. That's what I'm thinking.
That's what you'd like
Live.
to see.
And 3D, yeah.
Yeah.
You were thinking Jessica Rabbit.
But you bring up Jessica Rabbit, like...
Yeah, because these Asian sort of J-pop things seem quite. They have that weird edge of perversion factor that you get with that stuff, with a sort of skirt flying up when she turns around. And
But then again, a lot of the J-pop and the K-pop stars are so made up. They almost look.
well, this
like
is this is what I was
CG
watching
anyway.
this video, and I was looking at going, this is like the pinnacle. I reckon this is going to be huge in every. People's going to be a virtual version soon.
I wouldn't
The
want to
artist
see
is just going to be the puppeteer at the back. Doing the motion capture performance, and
I don't think so.
Did you ever see
this
that?
crowd was going off, man. I didn't know who this character was that I was seeing, but
There was a video on YouTube about Arkham Asylum, and because a lot of people thought that like Harley Quinn in that game was really hot, and then they released this video, and it's
they got the voice actors.
it's a guy that does the motion capture for it, and it shows him like slinking around and everything. It's really funny.
That's weird. That's awkward.
So yeah, I just thought Jessica Rabbit, they had her like walking around the club, and
And
the
you just-
guys are like, that'd be really weird.
Give it a quick
But
tug.
you'd
would
want
you?
to see it, yeah. In Saints Row, I found this cave where there was just like this bunch of sex dolls on old mattresses, and the mattresses are all stained and stuff like that.
That game is so random. It's so disgusting.
Oh yeah,
That should have been R.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
disgusting.
I know.
You found a cave in a game that had.
There's like one of these ones where you're rescuing prostitutes from containers,
Yeah.
and you open up the container, and it's like a fucking machine, just like,
Yeah, or they're just dead
oh yeah, it's full of flies. It's
Yeah.
disgusting.
because the prostitutes just rotted in the heat or died of heat exhaustion.
It's like in The Wire, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's probably what they got it from. And there's like, you just have this giant purple dildo running around hitting people with. Campbell, you wanted to ask, Darwin's journey on the Starship Beagle changed the world forever by effectively killing God, possibly the greatest discovery of all time. What comparable discovery would be made by another starship?
Did he really do? Oh, I guess he did.
I was using quite provocative.
I
language
was...
there.
Yeah,
Well,
I was-
other bloody things alive on other planets. Are they obvious?
Do you think that's as big a?
bigger deal.
Oh, I'm just asking. Like, what? Yeah, what things could we find?
Because we all expect aliens, don't we?
Something other than aliens?
No, we expect aliens because of that rule that there's... what's that law that guy did?
Lee's law.
Calculate
Lee's law. That's different though. That's just when you look.
That was that guy who calculated.
the potential of life in the Milky
Yeah,
Way.
and he decided that we're all stuffed. No.
Well, isn't it? If the universe is infinite, it's basically it's an infinite number of possibilities. And like when there's a percentage of something in an infinite number of test samples, then it becomes a certainty.
Yeah, but what this guy did, right? He said we can see this much of the universe, and the odds of it were of there being, this proportion of stars, and the odds of this star having a planet,
Yeah.
and the odds of this planet having a
existing within the habitable
zone, and then a planet of life evolving, and then the final piece of the equation was how long, because we could only detect them through radio waves. It was how long a civilization that was sufficiently advanced to create radio waves and therefore probably nuclear bombs would last, and like all the other bits of the equation are known. You can calculate probabilities, and this is the sort of unknown bit that he tried to calculate, which is basically how long would a civilization last once it's developed.
But then the thing
the
also,
possibility to destroy itself, and the answer is not very long. I don't think.
but then then the big question is where the hell is everybody?
Yeah.
Because
So
there
the
should
answer is
be-
that
yeah.
amount of time.
But then
is
if you
really small.
also, but if you think like the amount of time that we've been transmitting radio waves has been, what, like 60
100
years?
years?
100 years?
100
100 years?
Yeah.
That's pretty narrow. And the amount of time that we've been able to detect radio waves is 100 years. So what if someone dropped off the perch, like just, well, it wasn't 100 years ago, obviously, because the radio waves take time to get to us, but in our perceivable time, if that makes
I mean,
sense.
100 years
What if we
is
were
nothing, right?
What if
Just
like
because
110 years ago we were awash with radio
Yeah.
waves from another civilization before they just
blew
went?
themselves up.
Who cares about radio waves? Like, it doesn't,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be intelligent life, or just a planet of alien dinosaurs. That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, that's right. And bacteria, or what if we found ourselves?
kills us.
Like the Andromeda strain.
What if we found God?
It's hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just chilling.
Well, I was thinking like a Truman Show moment where you're flying a ship
Yeah.
and it just hits a wall and you realise,
Yeah.
oh, this is just a projection of ourselves or something. Yeah.
VR sort of thing.
We'll never know.
Well, we might. That's what I'm
Unlikely.
saying.
What if we get the Voyager disappears one day because it's hit the wall on
Thunk.
the outside of
Just
the...
explodes.
It keeps on extending the solar system, you know.
Yeah, just
Every-
oh,
every
this
year
thing.
it's like,
yeah,
we think it's...
totally on it.
Every year the Voyager's like, oh, we're going to hit the edge of the
because
solar
like
system.
there is no thud. It doesn't just go poof and like come out of the solar system. It's just like probably 1 million kilometers of.
What if it comes back? Like when you play
That would
asteroids.
be awesome.
Did you ever
This
see
little one starts appearing on the
yeah.
horizon. Then,
Skyline?
No.
Was that LA one?
I-
With
Yeah, yeah,
aliens?
yeah.
No.
I was totally
Like-
wanting to see it. Then when the people
Don't,
came outside, they're
don't.
like, don't. Exactly.
Don't. But you don't have to.
You tell
probably
us the best
spoil
bit.
it.
I'll spoil it for you. The aliens come to Earth because all of their machines are powered by human brains.
Wow.
So they need to harvest human brains to power their machines.
They probably need us then, yeah.
Yeah.
that's,
Had they come in the past and collected them?
No, don't think into it.
Are our
Wow.
brains that good?
I think you could just go. They just wanted to come here and blow stuff up. You know, don't invent a.
It's like
convoluted
quokka
plot
soccer
point.
for them.
Yeah, just they wanted to.
It's like a
they're
bit of
just
recreational
jerks.
fishing.
Yeah, and they wanted to steal our brains just because they're mean. eat them or something.
Meanies. Maybe it's a delicacy.
Yeah.
I don't know. You could find God. Maybe we could find ourselves out there. Yeah, VR sims.
Did you ever see Prometheus?
Yeah. We had a big discussion about it.
Yeah.
If you go back and listen to episode 14, that's the episode.
I was recently reading they released a book on the making of the original Alien, and it's amazing when you go back and look at all the concept art. Like originally, it wasn't meant to be a crashed spaceship; they were meant to find a temple, and the original facehugger was meant to be like this squid thing. And you look at it, and just Prometheus is just all the original concepts that they abandoned from Alien.
Yeah.
Like it is like they originally set out to make Prometheus, basically.
But yeah, they just put 'em.
Well, thanks for coming on, Brendan. You're welcome back anytime you're in Perth. We'll see how that zombie film's going, and we'll link to your Kickstarter when it goes live to
Yeah.
our millions of fans that listen to the show.
At the moment, the best thing is just to go and find the Facebook page and like that, because that'll
All right, yes, I'll link to that.
Yeah, so once we've got our crowdfunding up and running, we'll be
going
kind of
from there.
plugging it on there. Yeah.
Cool. No worries. Campbell, where can we find you on the internet?
CampbellWhite.com, and from there you can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, etc.
Have you joined Tent yet?
I haven't pitched one yet.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go home tonight and pitch it in.
What about you, Fred?
Don't try.
Okay.
What about on Sexy Fred?
I was looking through that the other day. It's
It's pretty epic.
still around.
It's pretty sick.
There's some crazy comments on there as well that
Yeah.
people have discovered.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Korean fans are going wild.
Yeah.
Big in Korea.
Yes, you can find us at fanginaround.com. You can send us an email, mailbag@fanginaround.com, or just go to the listener mail page. You can send us all kinds of weird stuff through Audioboo, SoundCloud, YouTube, whatever. Yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week, hopefully. All right.
Bye.
Bye, listener.
Right.